Good morning, everybody. Welcome to October. It is October 1st, 8:45 a.m. Back on another episode of The Market Open. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We've got a lot to discuss today in the global capital equity markets. Got a bunch of headlines this morning that really have broke over the past couple of hours that are obviously going to have a lot of implications, and we have to discuss those implications, what they mean. On top of that, I'm sure all of you guys have heard by now, but we're going to go deeper into the port strikes that have officially started 12 a.m. This morning, October 1st. These strikes have major implications for the U.S. economy, for the supply chain. Economists have estimated that the strikes will cost $5 billion a day to the U.S. economy if we do not resolve them. Currently, workers are on strike as we speak. And they are asking for two things. A, to be promised that their jobs will not be automated. B, for about 60 to 70% wage increases. Obviously, there's a lot in that. And I actually did some research this morning on the history of automation in regards to these ports. So we're going to go deeper into that, discuss that, understand that. Hopefully, we'll all get a little bit smarter understanding what that means. And then hopefully we find some solutions to that issue, because that is obviously going to be a very, very big deal for the broader economy. Apple is down in the pre-markets right now because Barclays says that, hey, Apple's cutting demand, or Apple's cutting production on the iPhone because demand is weak. So we're going to talk about that and kind of, discuss the implications of what that means for Apple stock. Apple was pushing 233 at like 5:45 this morning, and then boom, that headline came out at like 6:20, and then it just fell to 229. And then we've got oil. We got to talk about oil. Oil's down almost another % right now. That's really good for inflation, really good for the broader economy. When oil costs go down, obviously for input costs in every part of the economy that touches some level of oil. But the question is going to be, well, how low does it go? And, if it gets really low, is that actually bad for the oil companies? So got a lot to talk about there. And then finally, we got some Palantir updates. 37.20 right now in the pre-markets. We'll start with Palantir in just a second and get through it. 37.19. We did have some more insider selling yesterday, and so I want to talk about that and to discuss the implications of what that means for Palantir stock, given that the stock keeps going up, even though the insiders are selling. All right, let's get started. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Gene, Crowd Control, Erwin, Justin, Midwest, Nick Piercy. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Popcorn Panda, nice turtleneck. That color looks good on you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I got some very interesting comments with the turtleneck yesterday, but I told you guys I got the turtlenecks. I got some more colors. I'm going to break them out over the next couple of days. It's turtleneck season. By the way, October, I love October. October is my favorite month of the year. It's a fun month. Halloween month, birthday month. It's the start of the November, December, Christmas, Thanksgiving time. So October is awesome. I can't believe we're in October of 2024. I'm not going to say 2024 has moved fast. It's definitely moved slow. But it's not but it's still unbelievable that we're basically almost done with the year. I think I've definitely lived in the moment this year, and I've appreciated all the moments of this year. But it's been one of those years where, you kind of blink and then boom, you're in October, even though it kind of felt like it took some time to get to October, but we are officially here into the latter part of the year. Nolan, Strawberry Cookie, Winston Churchill, thank you for being in the chat. I appreciate it. Sarah, Nick Piercy, Casey, Tony, Profesco, FIFA, thank you, everybody, for being here today. William, Lisa, Deacon, thank you, everybody. Let's get started with the market open. So let's do Palantir quickly. There's not too much to talk about. I just want to discuss one of the big pieces of news we got yesterday, and then we'll get into the macro stuff, because that stuff is also very, very important this morning. Peter Thiel, our boy, sold another 4.18 million shares of Palantir yesterday. Honestly, was surprised by this one. He sold 600 million shares of stock, $600 million worth of stock last week. So you kind of thought, all right, so Peter's going to be done. No, Peter is not done. He sold another $154 million worth of stock. Now, what's really funny about this, I made a long video yesterday talking about insider selling, so I'm not going to go too deep into it, but what's hilarious to me is that his average that he sold was $36.84. He sold his shares for $36.84. Today, Palantir is 37.20, and Palantir has officially finished green for the month of September. Also, we'll go through what happened in Q3 and the major stocks and indices and how they did in Q3, so we'll talk about that. Palantir closed up 20% for September. And it closed at a higher price than what Peter Thiel sold his shares at. So, what is really funny to me about this is that we know the stock is expensive. No one's denying that. Joseph Carlson did a video yesterday talking about how expensive Palantir is. Peter Thiel sold $700 million worth of stock in the past week and a half. However, The market has been able to eat these insider sells like a champ and truly not care about them. So, my macro level take on this, and I've been talking about this really for the past couple of days since the insider selling started, is that if you hate the insider selling and if you think, oh, Peter Thiel is obviously telling the market, hey, Palantir's overvalued, we need to sell, you can quite literally sell at a better price than what Thiel is selling at if you feel this is a dire warning that the stock's going to fall like 50, 60%, which could happen. It also could go up another 10, 20% to end out the year, right? Both of those, I think, are very reasonable things that could take place, although I do think a 50% decline is not as reasonable. I think in 2025, if we have a bad macro, that's possible, but I think given the way they're accelerating, given the macro landscape, 50% drop going back to $18, it's going to be a little hard to see that. So, the key thing here is that this is not insiders dumping on retail and retail has no chance to exit with them. If that was the case, I could understand people's frustration. The reason why I think really no one is frustrated and I'm not getting a trillion DMs about why Peter Thiel is selling is because a lot of people have gotten rich off the stock this year and people have the opportunity to sell. He's not selling at 35, stocks going to 15, and then boom, you're left holding the bag if you bought it at 30. He's selling at 36, stocks going up at 37, and you literally are, people, I think the biggest conundrum that people are having are like, should I be selling or should I kind of hold on? And I think most people are holding on. So I think the market is finding a narrative around Palantir that is not attached to the idiosyncratic idea of insider selling. Not to deny that insider selling is not something we should be looking at, but it's just not something that's that important. And to highlight that, here's a tweet from a friend named Danny. He's a great account on Twitter. If you don't follow him, really good technical analysis charts. He is a massive Palantir position. I think he has over 200,000 shares. And he said right here, most of my friends in Hong Kong are waiting for a dip from 33 to 35. Most would invest millions. And I saw that comment today and I'm like, you know what? That's exactly what I've been thinking for the past couple of days, which is that the dip now at 33, 35, it's going to get eaten up. It's going to get eaten up. It's going to be swallowed up, dude. If Palantir goes to 32, 33 outside of some like crazy macro event, if it's just like a generic pullback that tends to happen in any stock, the dip buyer is going to be there. And so, of course, Peter Thiel has the liquidity to offload at this point 24 million shares in the matter of 5 days. And the stock goes up. It doesn't even flinch on this because there's so much liquidity. And I think that's very bullish. Make no mistake about it. That is incredibly bullish. The question is that going to be a situation where everyone's kind of wrapped up into buying stocks that are overvalued right now, and then eventually, they all take a tumble? I think eventually, yes, stocks will take a tumble. That like happens naturally. The question is, will stocks fall 70, 80% like they did in 2022, when they were at their 2021 highs? I think the macro landscape is different. I think earnings growth is different. And I think Palantir has a new narrative associated with it. So I am very bullish as an investor seeing Thiel dump these many shares and the market not care, at least for now, because it just means that there's more people willing to buy Palantir and they believe that there's a broader narrative associated with Palantir, which is exciting to see for the overall company. So that's what we got in the context of Peter Thiel and the Palantir updates as well. Thomas says Thiel will get a better return elsewhere funding the next Palantir meta. Yeah, that's the other final thing I'll say. That's a great comment by Thomas, is that he invests in a lot of companies. And if he's taking some liquidity off of Palantir and putting some money into whatever next startup that is going to 5,000x, then that's also something he does as a venture capitalist. And, he's done very well on Palantir. He still has 100 million shares. You would imagine he takes some chips off the table, puts it into the next startup, given he is a capital allocator at the end of the day. Mark says, what would the price be of the stock if he wasn't selling? Honestly, not sure. I don't know if the stock would be pushing the 40s if Thiel didn't dump 20 million shares. Maybe it would. But at the end of the day, he is selling. And as a result of him selling, the stock really isn't moving too much. Do you know what percentage of shares Thiel has sold so far? I believe he has sold about 15% of his shares. I'll double check that number, but I think it's 15 to 20%. I know he still has about 100 million shares left in Palantir, maybe 115. I think he had 145 before this began. I'll double check the numbers, but yeah, Karp and Thiel both call it 15% of their shares that they're selling as well. Michael Dell sold as well. So on this topic, before we get on to the port strikes, yes. So yesterday we talked about Warren Buffett selling another $420 million of Bank of America, which was 2 days ago, which we talked about on Monday. So like late Friday night, he sold them. But Michael Dell sold $1.2 billion worth of shares. Yes, $1.2 billion. Let me say that again, $1.2 billion last night. Is that bearish? I mean, look, at this point, insiders are cashing out, and it's something that we just cannot deny. It's one of those things where you have to make that personal decision on, do you feel comfortable selling with the insiders as well. Now, Michael Dell, he sold 10 million shares yesterday at $122.40. He sold like 5 million shares a week ago. So like he's been offloading. He now has 16 million shares left. And he had about 40 million shares in the beginning of the year. So he's been selling a decent amount. He sold 50% of his stake back, which is about $750 million of stock back in March. And that's when he did that interview. And if you guys remember, we reacted to that interview. And basically in the interview, he was like, yeah, I've been at the company for a long time. My name is Michael Dell. The company's called Dell, like I deserve to take some profits, which is fair. Like at the end of the day, at least he was being honest. But, now selling 10 million shares, 1.2 billion, it's a hell of a sell. Some people are arguing he's getting ready to buy Bitcoin. I think he probably already has a little bit of Bitcoin. But that's a lot of stock that he's selling off. Dell right now, based on this announcement from last night, Dell is down about 1.4%. It fell 1.4% yesterday. So here's the thing. This is what I mean in the context of Palantir. So Michael Dell files to sell $1.2 billion worth of stock at 122. Dell is now 116, which means if you bought Dell at 120 or at 122, you are down $6 a share. Peter Thiel sells at 36, 37. Karp sells at 35, 36. The stock is up for about, like, you can get, this is the most, it's the most unique situation I've ever seen, the most resilient version of Palantir that I've ever seen in the past 4 years of covering them. 37.20 on the stock, even though Thiel and Karp were selling, in the high 36s. Michael Dell sells and the stock drops $6. And so when I mean that you have a choice to sell Palantir with the insiders, quite literally you have that choice. Whereas some of these other stocks, what is happening is what usually happens when the insider sells a large amount, like $1.2 billion worth of stock, the stock falls down because people are worried that, insiders are selling. With Palantir, the stock goes up because it's a magical company. It's this like magical beanstalk that everyone just wants to get on top of. And it's like, it's pretty incredible seeing the resilience here. I don't know how long that resilience will last, but at least for now, the liquidity is there. And that liquidity is obviously leading to momentum for Palantir. In the pre-markets, the NASDAQ up about 0.01%, NVIDIA up 0.5%, Tesla up 0.45%, Robinhood. We do have some news out of Robinhood in regards to crypto. We'll talk about that in a little bit. They are up 0.19%. Enovix is up 1%. Rocket Lab down about 1%. China is closed for the next week because they have like this special holiday, October 1st to October 7th. So they'll be closed, but obviously China's still stimulating. So that's been very good for them. Carnival Cruise up about 1%. Alibaba up 0.27. SoFi up 0.38. SMCI is now trading at a 10-to-1 split price. They're at $42, up 1% on the day. And then Apple is down 1.3%. We'll talk about the Apple headlines in a second as well and discuss what's going on with Apple. As Crossroads says, Palantir is a unicorn. Correct. That is one of the reasons why it's happening. Bsoft says, feel like it's more macro selling for CEOs screaming pullbacks ahead. If he really wanted to dump, he would have done it when it was 160 to 170 a month ago. Yeah, I agree with that. I think, look, at the end of the day, a lot of insiders are realizing that this is a amazing opportunity, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out why. The stock market is up 20% year to date. We just had one of the best Q3s. We had the best September since 1997. So it makes sense that people are going to take profits. The difference between someone like myself and Alex Karp is I don't have 60 million shares of Palantir, right? So for me to sell Palantir, for anyone in the chat to sell Palantir, it's just a different question of risk mitigation, especially if you have a long-term trajectory versus Karp, who not only has a long-term trajectory, he's been in the thing for 20 years, right? He's the ultimate long-term investor when it comes to Palantir. It's just obviously positions can get overweight, and it makes sense to take some off the table as it would for any insider that's been in a company for a long time. Michael Dell, quite literally still the founder running the company. It also makes sense for him to take some profits. The question becomes, how do you interpret the insider selling? And look, my analysis on this is really simple. For anyone confused about the insider selling, it is a very simple analysis. If you believe China is going to keep stimulating, if you believe oil prices going down is great for inflation, if you believe JPOW is going to cut, which we'll talk about JPOW in a second, and you believe Q3 earnings are going to crush, the market, like Citadel does not care if Toby Luke from Shopify is selling 1 million shares. They care if they're growing 25% compounded, because that means they can get a return from buying the stock and then selling options to people, blah, blah, and do whatever market makers and hedge funds need to do. Like, the insider selling is not that important. The fund managers that are buying Palantir right now, they could care less about Peter Thiel and Karp dumping. They care about, hey, do we think this stock's going to 50 in the next 6-7 months and we can make some money off of it? Like funds, the reason hedge funds average, Citadel did 15.8% returns last year. It was one of their best 2023s, but most hedge funds or underperformed the S&P 500 because A, they're hedging against their positions, right? So when you have the hedge, you limit your gains. B, they're not startups. They're not VCs that are investing in a company when it's worth 5 cents on a seed round. And then that company gets to worth $100 billion, right? And they make this 5,000x return. They are looking for 10, 20, 15% scrapes that they can find from these stocks. And that means they're never going to get the type of return that Peter Thiel and Alex Karp have on their Palantir shares. They're never going to get the type of return that retail also has on their shares because they didn't jump in at $6. But they're still looking for some percentage gain. If they think Palantir can go up 10, 20% from here, then they're going to buy the asset class because that's all that matters to them at the end of the day. So that's what we got in the context of Palantir. Let's move on to Jerome Powell. So overall thoughts on insider selling, not that big of a deal. If you think Q3 is still going to be bullish, the insiders are going to sell. It's just a question of where do you feel comfortable in risk mitigation. And for Peter Thiel selling, again, I don't think the market cares anymore. We'll see. Maybe the market cares in the next few weeks, but for now, the market does not care. And I think that's very, very, very bullish for Palantir. Chakoti, thank you for the 5.99 euros. I want to start buying Hood. What's a good price? So look, I've been buying at 22.50 all of last week. I think the stock closes at the end of the year at 25. I think obviously it can go higher. My price target is 25. So if you think the risk reward from buying it at 23.50 to 25 is good, that's fine. If you're in this for the long term, I think this is a triple digit stock over the next decade. I mean, I really do. And I can get into my thesis later on that, but a lot of you guys have heard that thesis. I think Robinhood is the next Schwab. I think wealth transfer is happening. I think there's so many moving parts of the thesis, and we'll talk more about that when we do the Robinhood segment, when we look at the crypto news they released today. But at 23.50, if you believe the stock is 100, right, one day, triple digits, then I do think it will be a good return. If in the short term, could it fall back to 21, 22? Yes, it could happen. But I think at 22 has been fairly resilient, which is why I've been buying at 22.50. And so those are the prices that I've been buying Robinhood at as well. Okay, JPOW. Let's talk about JPOW. Actually, no, let's do port strikes, then we'll talk about JPOW. So here is an update on port strikes. First, let's watch a little bit of this video to get some context, and then I want to go into some of the research that I've done on port strikes over the past 24 hours. Here we go.
Data into just how much disruption we're facing is Alan Murphy. He's the CEO and founder of Sea Intelligence. And Alan, we've heard a lot of different numbers. By your estimates, how much does this cost the nation a day?
It's incredibly hard to estimate. Various estimates from different economists puts it somewhere between $3 and $5 billion per day. But it's both what does it mean in delayed shipment, what does it mean to higher freight rates. It's all a very volatile game, but certainly it's going to be very, very costly, several $1 billion per day of strike. And that's the fundamental challenge here. We don't know how long a potential strike or how long the strike will potentially last.
Well, let's walk through some of the potential timelines on this. What happens if this lasts the first week or two? What are the ramifications we can expect to see?
Well, it will certainly be a challenge especially for importers, especially if you have perishable goods moving in refrigerated containers. If they start to fail or they lose power. If you've got bananas, they're supposed to ripen over a certain time. If they spend another week, they start to spoil. Within a week, it's going to be costly and it's going to impact those importers that are waiting for the boxes. But it's a manageable crisis. If it lasts 2 weeks, then it starts getting to be a big challenge because we'll start to see vessels missing that are now stuck in ports outside of the U.S. ports. They won't make their journey back to Asia and to the other origin regions, which will push up freight rates. So 2 to 3 weeks, it starts to get a really big problem, and we will see cost of shipping globally, not just to the U.S. East Coast, but globally start to push up.
So you can see right here, people are on strike. It literally started last night. I'm in New Jersey, and there's a lot of these ports in New Jersey, New York. So it is close to where I live at in terms of how it's happening. Now, what's really interesting about this, remember, there's two things to simplify this that the port strikers want. They want a guarantee that automation is not going to replace their jobs, which led me down a rabbit hole last night. And then they also want increased wages by about 20%. Or sorry, not 20%. I think if it was 20%, they would have got this resolved. It's about 70%. So the rabbit hole I went down last night in terms of understanding this automation thing is an article I found from 2015. And the article was talking about why the United States port system has not already been automated. And I tried to ask myself, well, wait a second, how would they have automated in 2015? Like, did we have the technologies, whether it's AI, ML, robotics in 2015 that could have started the process of automation? The answer is yes. Take a look at what they are doing in China. This is a video in China where workers are controlling the ports, meaning the trucks and the devices that actually load up the inventory to then load them up into the freights that end up taking them to the stores and the different grocery chains, all that stuff, because this spans from all different types of consumer products being done in an automated way. There are people sitting literally on their computers navigating all of this via China. Now, it makes sense that that's happening in China. Why does it make sense? Because China has so much manufacturing, so much shipping, so many exports that they probably found out years ago, hey, like we should probably be automating this stuff because we just can't pay people hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars it would amount to tens of millions of dollars in salaries just to be able to do this. These are people sitting at their computer. Look at this guy. You see the joystick? It's like a fucking video game to the like it's insane. This is what the workers that are striking don't want to happen. They don't want joysticks to replace their joy. Okay, that was a very cheesy joke, but you get my point, right? They don't want it to take away the purpose and meaning of their life. And I am sympathetic to that. I think anyone who is bullish on Optimus and humanoid robotics, I don't think anyone is unsympathetic to the fact that those will automate jobs. And if it automates jobs, those people will lose a lot of purpose in their lives. I think that's an existential philosophical question about how we have to figure out the nature of people's purpose at that point. But like, we didn't stop Uber just because we wanted to preserve the sanctity of the taxi driver. Technology moves forward. And so humanoid robotics and automation is coming. It's not stopping. The question is going to be for these port workers is, are they delaying the inevitable and actually increasing the probability of the chances of automation happening quicker by doing this strike and then basically giving companies no option but to realize that, hey, we've got to figure out what to do with the situation and we've got to automate as soon as we can. If I was the head of one of those companies, I mean, and we need to have a negotiation for the sake of the U.S. economy and for the sake of profits for that company, and quite literally for the sake of inflation, because if this lasts more than 2 weeks, CPI is not going to be pretty in November. It's going to be very pretty in October. We get CPI next week. Oil collapse in September. CPI is going to be beautiful. This thing came out of nowhere, and this could mess up a lot of things. I would say, hey, for the next 5 years, we're not going to automate your jobs. And we're going to give you, I don't know if you can give 70% pay raises, but there's got to be a way they meet in the middle at like 45%, whatever they do, right? So I would guarantee, hey, we're not going to automate and we're going to do a reasonable wage increase. And then over the next 5 years, I would do everything in my power to make sure that when that contract is over, shit's automated, because there's no other way you can resolve that situation, right? I think in this scenario, you have to negotiate a deal that guarantees no automation for a set amount of time. Otherwise, I don't know how you get the deal done, because they're not going to work unless they get that clause in their contract. But then once that deal is up, and during in the background, you need to be finding a way to make sure that as soon as that deal is up, you can start beginning the automation process, because you obviously can't break the deal once you sign it within the first couple of years. So I don't know if it's 5 years. I don't know if it's a decade. I don't know if these employers want the next 30 years of no promised automation. But if they do, and if the employers are not willing to like capitulate, this is not good. This is not good. And October, historically, a lot of people are talking about October is not going to be that good of a month. Historically, October is bad. We looked at a couple charts yesterday saying that during the election year, October is bad. However, I saw something else this morning. Since 2009, October hasn't been too bad, man. October has not been too bad. Last year, it was down about 2%. But I mean, you've definitely got some red, but you've also got a lot of green for October since 2009 in the S&P 500. So October doesn't have to be bad, is my point. September, look at the last 4 years. 2020 was down 4%, 2021 down 5%, 2022 down 9%, 2023 down 5.6%. Like, this is why September was so bad, because we all expected historically it would be bad, and then September ended up being green, 2.39% yesterday as we closed out the month. October might not have to be like that. This is the type of event that can make October be like that. And that's not good. That's obviously not really good. So what do you guys think? What do you think is going to play out with this situation? Jonathan says 70% seems greedy. I agree. And I think 70% is a bargaining chip. I hope. Elizabeth says they've been offered a 50% increase so far. Yes, I think the problem is the employers didn't agree to the automation part, which is why they rejected the 50% pay increase. So like, there's two sides to this coin that we have to be able to reconcile. But I don't know how this is going to play out, dude. My guess is that this is resolved sooner than later, because there's just no way, I imagine, that the Biden administration, which can intervene. I was reading some stuff about what Reagan did. I'm going to get the exact names wrong of how this whole happened. But this similar situation was happening when Reagan was president, and he threatened to fire close to 10,000 people that were also protesting. And he ended up firing them, like from the executive branch. And they were all put on a list that they could never apply to another government job ever after they got fired. And so Reagan took real big actions. Reagan was not tolerating any of this shit. And Reagan basically imposed his power over the workers and said, hey, you cannot do this. This is like collapsing the economy. And if you do this, then we're not going to be able to move forward as a country. I don't think Biden's going to do that. I think Biden, for him to do something like that, it would be not that I think it's super aggressive given the scale of the magnitude of what this can be like. But Biden has not done anything that aggressive throughout his 4 years. He's also been very pro-union. I mean, that's what sums it up, right? He's been very pro-union. So I doubt he's going to intervene this aggressively. But if this goes on for the next couple of weeks, I mean, we've got an election coming up. This would dramatically hurt the economy right before the election. Obviously, I don't think Biden wants that to happen. So I think this gets resolved somehow. I don't know how. I don't know exactly how. But this has to get resolved in some capacity. And hopefully it gets resolved soon. And if it does, then, we likely won't have the massive levels of inflation that could happen if this ends up happening. Let's finish out that clip and then we'll move on to JPOW. But this is what we've got going on in the ports.
Can they be rerouted to Canada or to the West Coast?
That's not really much of an option. Some of these vessels will be calling a port in Canada or to different transshipment hubs in Caribbean. They'll try and offload to as much as they can, but there's simply not enough room in the Canadian and Caribbean ports to handle all of this cargo. So there's really few options outside of actually just waiting outside a port, just like we saw during the pandemic, a line of vessels for as long as the strike lasts.
If this lasts even longer, 2 to 4 months, then what?
Well, certainly then we're talking about a massive severe impact on the U.S. economy. By our estimates, almost certainly to push the U.S. into a recession this year if it lasts more than a month.
If it lasts more than a month. Okay. You've said that the longshoremen have timing on their side because of what's happening in the Red Sea right now. You want to explain that?
Well, basically, before the Red Sea crisis, which is basically the inability to sail vessels, especially from Asia to Europe, via the Suez Canal. Now you have to go around Africa because of attacks from Houthis out of Yemen in the Red Sea. That basically means you need a whole lot more vessels to be able to sail the same distance. About 14% more vessels. And that means that whatever slack we had in the system back in December, which was around 15%, completely got removed because of the Red Sea crisis. Now, if the Red Sea crisis had not happened, then the strike now would have a much less severe impact because the shipping lines would have plenty of excess vessels to put in. Now they don't have any excess vessel. All the slack has been taken out of the system.
The idea that so many...
Last thing on this is the ILA the ILA union leader. This is his perspective on how he wants to negotiate this.
No work, no salaries. Biden called me up on the phone, President Biden. Harold, I got the money to build a new bridge. I go, oh. What about my longshoremen? They're out of work now. They didn't cause no problem. Well, he goes, I got the money for building a new bridge and getting the bridge that's in the water out of there. I ask you one more time, President, what about the men whose families now have no money coming in? Listen, you're supposed to be a friend of the ILA. You came to me when you wanted the AFL CIO backing. I got it for you. You called me in the kitchen. You thanked me a million times. I'm telling you, my members need help. Well, let me see what I can do. In politics, that means you're not getting it, okay? No work.
All that to say, I think it's going to be a little tougher of a negotiation. This guy does not look like he's going to tolerate, half-ass demands or half-ass requests for his demands. So it's going to be one of those things that we got to keep an eye on it. Of course, this would happen towards the end of the year. Everything was going decently well. We had that little yen carry trade. Everyone here bought the dip. We're doing great. It's awesome. September was supposed to suck. September ends up being incredible. You get CPI coming at 2.5. You get 50 by the Fed. You get China starts stimulating. You get oil prices, which we're about to talk about, that go straight down. Things are lining up to be so good. And then this fucking, I didn't even know what the ILA was, dude. Long show. I didn't even know we had all these ports. Like I fucking just like I didn't know anything about the yen carry trade. Then over the next 24 hours, you get educated on all this shit and you realize, goodness gracious, this world is so complicated. So this quite literally came out of nowhere. I don't want to say it's a black swan event yet. I think the yen carry trade was more black swan event, although it lasted for like a couple hours. This thing could last longer than the yen carry trade and could have more implications. Now, is it going to massively affect Q3 earnings? No, but it can affect Q4 guidance, which is not good. You don't want companies getting on their earnings call saying because of the ILA strike, we might not be able to meet our Q4 numbers. Like, that's not going to be good, dude. Like, we don't want to see that. So I think this gets resolved. I don't think this ends up being a dramatic thing, but I hope that this gets resolved soon, because if it doesn't get resolved soon, as you said, I mean, he's not wrong. If this goes on for a month, there is a legit chance for a recession. And I can't imagine we enter a recession because they can't negotiate a deal over the course of a month. I mean, look, I'm not the best negotiator, but get me in that room, dude. I'll find a way to get a deal done. Like, so I would imagine we would get this deal done hopefully soon. All right, let's talk about oil. So this is really important. I mean, I couldn't believe this when I saw this morning, but oil continues to fall. Israel had ground forces in Lebanon last night. Israel went on the ground in Lebanon last night. You would think that more Middle Eastern instability leads to oil prices going up, because that tends to happen when the Middle East creates a lot of oil. When there's instability, you get supply shocks, and then boom, oil goes up. No. Oil's down. At one point, it was $65, dude. Now it's $67, but it is healthily below that $70 per barrel range. There's 4 implications on this for investors that I think are very important. Number one, this is beautiful for inflation. I mean, this is just incredible for inflation. A lot of inflation still is energy. Shelter is like the big part of it, but energy is still a big component. If oil continues to go down, we should see more pressure on inflation going down. Number two, the United States government actually did something very smart yesterday. They bought 6 million barrels of oil for their strategic petroleum reserves. What does that mean? That means that if we ever get into a crisis, for example, when oil prices go up a lot and the administration, whatever administration is, needs to unload some barrels of oil from the strategic petroleum reserve to lower prices and to increase supply, or if we get into like a war or something, or there's a pandemic or something and we need tons of oil, you always want to have that filled up. And for the past couple of years, we've been offloading a lot of that to be able to deal with high oil prices when oil was like when gas was like $4.95 a gallon in New Jersey. I know for some people it's like $6. We haven't seen oil below 70 since 2021. Quite literally, we have not seen oil below 70 since 2021. It has been a while. Here's the chart right here on oil. So as you can see right here, since about November of 2021, we have not seen below, or October, that $70 level. It's been up there for a while. I mean, we got to the lowest we got to was 66 on March 2023, and then it bounced up right from then. So it's been a while. That is a really, really good thing to fill up that SPR as oil prices are down. Again, Israel and Lebanon tensions are heating up despite the increased volatility in the Middle East, which usually spikes oil prices. Oil continues to go down. That means the Saudis are pumping so much oil that even Israel and Lebanon can't create a supply shock that would increase prices. And then finally, we've talked about this a lot over the past couple of days, but oil being down is good for all parts of the economy. It's good for supply chains, airlines, etc. Since every business uses fuel in some capacity, this should help margins to an extent for every single business, most notably the airlines. And it should increase guidance for companies going to Q4 if oil prices continue to go down. So this is pretty bullish with oil prices being down, obviously pretty bullish with China stimulating. The one thing that's kind of messing up a lot of stuff is these port strikes, and we just have to see, if this ends up being resolved, hopefully pretty soon. C. Harris, why are we paying $3.50 a gallon? Where do you live, C. Harris, for $3.50 a gallon? Put in the chat what you're paying for oil. I paid like $2.70 the other day. Like in New Jersey, it is coming down pretty aggressively. I know California, you're still at like $4, $4.50. Yeah, Gil, $2.49 in Texas. That's amazing. It's coming down, dude. Oil is absolutely coming down. So I would imagine it continues to come down, and as oil prices go down, gas prices should continue to go down. I believe oil companies start printing money when oil is above 30 a barrel. So like for the past couple of years, they've been printing a lot of money because it's been healthily above 30 a barrel. At one point, it was 120. So at 60, 65, that's still okay. If you start getting into the 50s, that's when oil companies start like worrying a bit. But that's not happening right now. We got Doug. He's working his ass off to keep the oil flowing. Doug works at an oil company, so that's he's doing good work for us. Oregon 360, Florida 310, 459 in Cali. That's another reason I can't live in California, dude. 459 for gas. I mean, if I get a Tesla, I guess it wouldn't matter, but still, that is a lot just for gas. I remember paying $4.95 in New Jersey 2 years ago, and it was just insane, dude. It was just I remember like I would go by the gas stations and they would have like $4.99 just to like psychologically get people to think they're not paying $5 a gallon, but like they were ready to push $5 until it finally came lower. Wow, you guys are paying expensive prices. 304 in Iowa. How is New Jersey cheaper than Iowa? 450 in Cali, 315 in Michigan. Why is New Jersey cheaper than some of these states? I feel like New Jersey should be more expensive. Interesting. Miami 319. Huh. Well, it's coming down, and it's coming down pretty aggressively, at least across the entire nation. New Jersey definitely is coming down a lot more. But this is bullish. This is good. This is great for the economy. And as long as these port strikes are resolved, I believe oil coming down will continue to be really good for expanding margins and for hopefully inflation continue to come down. All right, JPOW. So if you did not hear what JPOW said, he said one thing yesterday that caught headlines. The stock market tanked by 0.5% once he said this. And then once he stopped talking, the market went back up and ended at a nice all-time high. What was really funny is that if you bought call options right when like 0-day expiring options for like, I think they were worth 18 cents when JPOW said what he said that I'm about to show, they were worth $7.29 by the end of the day. So, I mean, the S&P just really rallied into the close, which was nice to see. But here's what JPOW said yesterday that got the market a little upset, and we'll talk about if it actually matters at all.
Before I get to that second question on the unemployment rate, I'm going to ask you a point blank question here. How are you thinking about the November meeting?
So a couple things. One, we have 2 employment reports and an inflation report coming in. So the main thing will be to look when we get to that meeting at the totality of the data, and we're looking at the activity data, the unemployment data, and the inflation data, and asking ourselves, is our policy stance in the place where it needs to be for us to best foster achievement of our goals? And I think we'll take everything into account, and we don't have that data yet. So that's the main thing. But the other thing is just, I wanted to point out, and I kind of just did, that it's a committee that we will do what it takes in terms of the speed with which we move. But if you look at where we were 2 weeks ago, coming up on 3 weeks ago, I guess, when we wrote down our SEPs and made our decision, it was a situation where people were thinking, the bulk of the committee was at 75 or 100 basis points, and the votes were on 50, and that would mean 2 more cuts. It wouldn't mean more 50s. Now, of course, that'll depend on the data, but ultimately that's what the baseline is. If the economy performs as expected, then that would mean 2 more cuts this year, a total of 50 more.
That was it. That is what got the market upset yesterday. And then the market realized, wait a second, that's not that big of a deal. So if you missed what he said, hey, we're going to get 2 more cuts this year to a total of 50 basis points. Now, that's what he guided in the dot plot. It's not like he was making breaking news headlines right there, even though the market thinks we're probably going to get 75 bips. But he said, hey, we'll get 2 more, 25 and 25. Now, you might be wondering, wait a second. JPOW was super dovish on the FOMC meeting when he did 50, and he said we have to control unemployment. We got inflation coming down. So like that 50 was super dovish. Why is he getting a little bit more hawkish? And when I say a little, I mean just a teeny bit more hawkish. Why is he basically saying don't expect 50 again because we already did 50? Well, the reason for that is because the economy is actually holding up. Inflation's continuing to come down, which is good. However, and we're going to look through some job number, non-farm payroll expectations in a second. But it does seem like we are not having massive unemployment. Remember, the reason for 50 was to enable the economy to be able to withstand massive unemployment, because then you couldn't really blame the Fed at that point, even though people would still blame the Fed. But you could at least say, all right, well, the Fed wasn't too conservative, given they probably should have cut in July, and now they're only doing 25, so they're late, like really late. The fact that they did 50 means they at least have some cover. Now that the economy is kind of holding up, how do I know that? Well, jobs data is expected to be good. We'll see on Friday, but also retail sales data in August was also decent. you've got an argument that maybe we don't need to do another 50, which I think is very fair given we already did 50. CME futures are showing that on November 7th, which is 2 days after the election, we are likely going to have a 64% chance of getting another 25 bips and a 35% chance of getting 50 bips. I think if we get 25 and 25, and I think the market realized this after JPOW got off stage and they kind of just like had to come to their senses. Oh, that's still another 50. That means we're going to knock off 100 basis points for the year, which is like really good. Maybe it's not 125, but you kind of don't need 125 if the economy's holding up. I also think JPOW's looking at that 10-year, not continuing to go higher. Is it higher today? That 10-year has not fallen since, oh, wow, it's down today. Huh? It's actually down. And maybe some of the macro events, maybe the port strikes are causing that to go down as well. But that 10-year has stayed relatively stable since JPOW, since we cut by 50 bips. And I think he's also realizing, all right, maybe we don't need to do another 50 again. That is not bearish to me. That's actually relatively bullish. If the economy's holding up, we don't need massive rate cuts, but if inflation's coming down, we can cut at a less aggressive pace. The only reason to aggressively cut is not because inflation comes down. Like, that's a good reason to cut. It's if unemployment spikes up. That's when you need to like have stimulative measures via monetary policy, which would be a rate cut. But if that's not the case, then that'll be all right, right? And so if you get another 25 and 25 to get to 50, I still think that's relatively strong for the economy at the end of the day. Now, these are the expectations talking about job reports that JP Morgan put out. So they said, hey, if we add 200,000 jobs, this is a 5% chance, but this is going to massively increase GDP, which would be very good. The S&P would add about 50 bips of value, or it would be flat. If we add 160 to 200,000 jobs, this is our Goldilocks scenario, since it would point to a higher growth without an inflationary impulse. The S&P would add 1 to 1.5%. If we add 140 to 160,000, which is what most of the market is expecting, that would be in line with expectations, still the Goldilocks zone. The S&P would add 75 bips to 1.25%. If we're between 110 and 140, you could see the S&P fall about 1%, because that would be lower than the month-over-month print that we had in September, which was 142,000 jobs for the August month. So the September month, if it is below 142,000, that would mean maybe the Fed does need to cut by 50 bips because unemployment is starting to get higher. And if it's below 110,000 jobs, which I don't think is going to happen, you would see the S&P lose 2%. So most likely, I think we have that 40% chance of going between 140 and 160. And if that's the case, the Fed's probably going to cut by another 25. If Q3 earnings are good, and that 140,000 jobs would imply that there are enough people that are still able to spend money to allow Q3 earnings and Q4 guidance to be good, then we should be all right going into the end of the year, assuming we get through the election. And if that's the case, then the macro is not looking horrible, along with China getting ready to print. I was reading a couple articles last night that China has not really unveiled the bazooka in regards to printing and stimulus. Like all these little things they've done with mortgage rates and reserve ratio requirements, that's not even like the beginning of what they're going to do. And that's primarily because China is officially ready to enter into the global economy and be a major player, given how bad things have turned out over the past 6 years. Here's a chart just to give a little bit more context on how bad China has been in the past 6 years. So take a look at these four metrics. China's M2 money supply. Look at it go from 2010 to 2024. It's at the lowest level it's been in a decade. This is China's residential floor space starts. It is at the lowest level it's at in over 2 decades. You can see there in 2024, the line just goes all the way down. Then you can see China commercial and residential property prices. They have declined dramatically. They're down -7%, the worst they've been since 2014. And then you've got China consumer confidence, which is also just abhorrent. It is at levels that we have not seen in the past 2 decades. So these charts kind of give a little bit of context on how bad things have gotten in China and how much they need to stimulate to get things to get back. This is why, David Tepper believes that going long China is a buy everything type of moment. The question is going to be when they unveil that bazooka. And if they unveil that bazooka, again, the implications on that for the rest of the world are massive. And that'll be obviously very big for job growth in the United States and also GDP growth globally and GDP growth in the United States as well. So we're going to see kind of how this plays out, but that's what we got going on right now in the context of the Fed and what JPOW said yesterday as well. Tesla, we got, oh my God, it's 9:29. Holy crap, dude. Where did the time go? Oh my gosh. I got 2 more topics I wanted to get through before the market opened. All right. Wow. It's 9:29. I guess life moves fast when you're talking about the economy really quickly. Well, there we go. All right, so we got more stuff to talk about. Here we go. Tuesday, October 1st. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. The stock market is once again open. Wake your ass up. Here we go. Apple is down 2%. I was going to do a segment on Apple. I didn't even get the chance to do it. So we'll talk about it in a second, but Apple is down because of some decreased demand expectations for the iPhone 16. Kind of the same story we've been seeing over the past couple of days. So we'll talk about Apple in a second, but that one's down 2%. Look at Palantir, $37.35, hit $37.53, right back to $37.34, up about 30 bips on the day. Peter Thiel did sell 4.18 million shares yesterday. For those that are just joining, market seems to not care. Wow, Meta, all-time high. Wow, all-time high. All-time high on Meta. Tesla, 262. I got a bunch of stuff to talk about on Tesla, including some really interesting things they said yesterday. So we're going to talk about Tesla in a second. But Tesla right here, 262. NVIDIA goes green after a couple down days for the semis. S&P goes slightly red, down about 0.14%. Bitcoin right here, 63,378. Bitcoin is slightly down. Palantir, 37.25. Dell is down 1.5%. CEO Michael Dell sold 1.2 billion with a B of shares yesterday. And so that's why Dell is probably down. Now, Peter Thiel sold 700 million actually of shares over the past week, and Palantir goes up. So there's a little bit of a difference between Palantir and Dell when it comes to insider selling. Rocket Lab is down 1.69%. JD.com is up a little bit. Baidu is up a little bit. NIO's up 2.6%. Again, the Chinese stock's getting a little bit more momentum. Carnival Clues basically flat on the day. SoFi down about 0.32. Not sure why SoFi is down, but SoFi is indeed down. SMCI now trades at $42. It is not down 90%. It is done a 10-for-1 split. And so SoFi right here up about, or it's not SoFi, sorry, SMCI up about 1.2% on the day. Royal Caribbean is up a little bit. Coinbase is down, given Bitcoin's down. CrowdStrike 281, Amazon 184, Fortnite. Wow, Amazon 184, dude. Amazon was pushing 195. Now, the reason Amazon's down, I heard, or I was reading a little bit today, that the strikes, they could affect a lot of the products that Amazon exports and imports. Now, it's not Amazon like Amazon has a vertical integration in terms of getting a product to your house. So if you order a water bottle, that water bottle will come to your house, but that water bottle has to get to an Amazon facility, and that water bottle comes from a port. So that is the reason I think Amazon is down about 1% right now, and maybe it started selling off over the past couple of days because people knew this port strike was coming. That could potentially delay some issues or cause some issues for Amazon. Google, wow, Google's up 2%. They did get upgraded today from a couple different firms, but Google right here, 169, might be pushing 170. If you bought that 149 dip, congrats. You might be pushing 170 today, up about 2% on the day. MicroStrategy down just a little bit. Pinduoduo up a little bit. Google, again, 170. There you go, right at 170. Netflix at 714. Squid Game 2 is officially coming out December 26th. They released a couple trailers yesterday. The last Squid Game, fun fact, added 4 million subscribers for Netflix. Netflix barely gets 4 to 5 million subscribers a quarter. So adding, that one show adding 4 million for them, I would imagine Squid Game 2 might be hyped up. And if it's a really good sequel, then that might add some more subscribers to them as well. Palantir just went red, 37.10. So you're getting a little bit of red right there on Palantir. S&P as well just went red by 1/3%. We will get JOLTS data in 27 minutes. We will get the number of job openings in 27 minutes, and we'll see how that affects the broader market. NVIDIA, 121, Tesla, 261, Robinhood, 2340, Novix down about 3%. And then you got Bitcoin here at 63,339. Rocket Lab is tanking. Is Rocket Lab tanking? Rocket Lab, it is. Wow, Rocket Lab's down 4%. All right, so I think we all expected Rocket Lab would have a little bit of a pullback. You're seeing some of that pullback right now. We'll see how aggressive that gets, but people are dumping some of their Rocket Lab. PayPal, Jim Cramer is now a fan of PayPal. PayPal's up a little bit right now, but last night he did say that he likes PayPal. So if you like PayPal, you got Cramer on your side as well. 78.33 right now for PayPal. Okay, Tesla, 261. Let's talk about Tesla. There's a variety of different things happening in Tesla. Oh, as well, Ian, thank you for this. EU inflation came down dramatically in the European Union. The Eurozone inflation fell to 1.8% in September of 2024. This is the lowest since April of 2021. The lowest since April of 2021. So we have not seen inflation come down in the Eurozone like it's come down over the past 3 years, but it's down. Also in Germany, which makes sense because Germany's part of that reason. Germany's CPI came down to 1.6% year over year in September, slightly below the expected of 1.7%, which is great. So Germany's inflation is coming down. The Eurozone's inflation as a whole is coming down. The ECB is starting to have more rate cuts. All of that is obviously bullish for global liquidity and for the broader economy when it comes to what's happening with inflation. Okay, cool. Tesla. We got to talk about Tesla. Meta all-time high is just incredible. Meta is really getting some love from the market. Look at that, 579 on Meta. All right, so Tesla 261. There's a lot of things to talk about when it comes to Tesla. So first of all, let's just go through the list. This was a Twitter exchange that Tesla AI account was having with a random person. And the Tesla AI account, someone asked, hey, what about semis? Because Cybertruck FSD rolled out yesterday. So that's really exciting because now, people can enable FSD on their Cybertruck. Someone said, what about semis, AKA FSD for semis? And the Tesla account said, but wait, there's more. Leading to a lot of people thinking, hey, maybe on 10/10, they're going to announce a lot more than what we think they're going to announce. Then you had Dan Ives. He says, we believe Tesla is the most undervalued AI name in the market and expect Musk & Co. to unveil some game-changing autonomous technology next week in LA. We continue to believe that AI and FSD represents a $1 trillion opportunity of value alone for Tesla over the coming years. And so Dan Ives right there is pretty excited about the overarching Tesla thesis. And then we talked about the Tesla semi truck potentially getting to FSD, or potentially getting FSD as well. Wells Fargo, they did add Tesla stock to their tactical list for Q4. However, they have a $120 price target. So not super, super bullish at the end of the day on the price, but they are adding it to a tactical list. And then Cybertruck FSD V12.5.5 is going out right now. And that was, when I mean now, I mean it came out about 10 hours ago. A lot of celebrities have FSD. A lot of celebrities have, or not FSD, have the Cybertruck. I mean, Kim Kardashian, the amount of times she has posted about the Cybertruck to her 350 million followers has been like at least 10 or 20 times over the past month. So there is a lot that of sort of organic brand awareness that can happen as well in regards to the celebrities getting access to FSD. You got Tesla right here at 261 now, going slightly green on the day. Now, here was another piece of Tesla news that I thought was really interesting yesterday. Elon won one of his lawsuits. So Tesla just won a dismissal of a shareholder lawsuit alleging misleading statements about self-driving capabilities propped up for Tesla stock price. The plaintiffs failed to connect Musk's hands-on management with any information that he allegedly learned, rendering his statements false or misleading. In a ruling today, U.S. District Judge Akeli Martinez-Olgun rejected shareholders' allegations that Elon overstated Tesla's self-driving technology with assurances that drivers could go to sleep in their car by 2020, among other promises. She found that some of the alleged overstatements concerned future plans, while others weren't necessarily false. So basically, if you guys remember, someone tried to sue Elon a while ago, and Tesla, saying that the only reason the stock price is up is because Elon said that, hey, you're going to be able to like sleep in your car and FSD is going to be amazing. That hasn't necessarily worked out. Tesla down about 0.5% right now. However, it wasn't false or misleading to the point where if you bought the stock based on those statements, you were like being lied to. I never thought that case had a chance of winning. I mean, that was a hell of a stretch for someone to try to win that argument. But today, officially, the judge said that they're not winning that argument, which is good because Elon got a win after a couple of months of not really winning too much when it came to court. So those are the Tesla updates. Obviously very bullish. We've got 10/10 coming up. We got a lot of price targets being thrown out. Goldman Sachs, by the way, said you should buy call options before the event. Therefore, I will not be buying call options before the event because, Goldman Sachs saying that is always a little scary, but maybe Goldman is right. And maybe this thing just jumps up to 300 after they announce some game-changing things with Optimus, Cybertruck, and obviously the Robotaxi. But it's going to be interesting to see kind of how that rolls out. Last thing on Tesla is we did get a small preview. Markets are dropping right now a little bit right here of what the Cyber Cab looks like. Let me see if I can find this picture right here. And they like kind of hinted it in their monthly update that Tesla put out. And you could kind of see a little bit of what it looks like. I think a lot of people have a small understanding. Yeah, right here. So this monthly recap, this is what people are speculating the Cyber Cab is going to look like right at the top right there. So they put out a monthly recap. I definitely recommend people read this. They have a ton of stuff. Obviously, the ASS Auto Smart Summon came out this week, which is a big deal for Tesla. But that monthly recap, people are saying this thing right here at the top looks like the Cyber Cab designs that people have seen rumors of. And if that's the case, hopefully we'll be getting a cyber cap, which is going to be really good. Iran is prepping a ballistic missile attack against Israel. That's from Axios. Okay, let me confirm that. Thank you, Bsov, for putting that in the chat. That's not good. Iran ballistic missile attack. Axios is reporting that. That's not a good thing. That's bad. I'm not seeing the news update on that yet. Let me check Twitter to see if that's the case. I imagine that's true. Maybe that's why the market's going down a little bit. Tesla right here, 259, Palantir 3702, Nvidia down about 1%. Yeah, everything's falling for sure. We got S&P right trying to hold on to 570. Yeah, Axios political reporter tweets, senior White House official tells me the United States has indications that Iran is preparing to imminently launch a ballistic missile attack against Israel. Okay, so that is officially happening. Or we don't know if that's happening, but that is reported that it does seem like there is indications from reputable sources that it is happening. So that's not a good thing. Now, the one caveat I'll say here is that, so two things. Iran has said they would attack Israel for the past 6 months. And I think in May, they were supposed to launch like an attack that was going to be one of the worst attacks of all time. They ended up not doing that. So that's one thing we have to remember when it comes to Iran launching. Number two is Israel really is making them upset at a higher level. I mean, like Israel was pushing them for the past couple months, but what they did in Lebanon over the weekend, that got Iran really upset. And because they took out a senior official, I would imagine Iran wants to impose their whatever like will and show how strong they are, because they feel very weak right now, given that senior official got hit by Israel along with the walkie-talkie pager attacks. So I don't know if this tweet or this threat is a fake threat, or if they're like actually upset at this point and they don't care. I guess we'll find out, but it definitely has markets a little upset right now. So you got China stocks that are still up. Carnival Cruise just fell 4%. Oracle's down 1%. SoFi's down 1.15. Rocket Lab's down 4%. Dell's down 2.84. Palantir still holding 37. S&P at 570, now at 569. Meta at 578. Bitcoin. All right, so that headline just got Bitcoin. Over the past couple of days, Bitcoin has not been hit by a Middle East headline that has tanked it, which usually, like literally anything in the Middle East would tank Bitcoin 5%. And it's held up pretty nicely over the past couple of days. Today, I think this Iran headline is definitely affecting Bitcoin. Bitcoin is not a flight to safety. When things go bad, Bitcoin goes down. So Bitcoin right here is going down. Where's gold? Gold is up. Of course, gold is up, because why not? Why wouldn't you buy gold if World War III is about to break out? So gold is up 1.34%. That seems to be the only thing that is up right now outside of Meta. I don't know how Meta's up right now, 1%, but Meta's up, gold is up, SMCI up a little bit. Again, SMCI did their split. Google's up a little bit. Google just gave away all of its gains. Google was pushing 170. Now it's at 166. I think that Iran headline got everyone. It got everyone. The headline news is a senior White House official told an Axios political reporter that the United States has indications that Iran is preparing to imminently launch a ballistic missile attack against Israel. I don't think that means nuclear weapon. I think we would, like, you could have a ballistic missile that's not attached to a nuke. But yeah, I don't know. The Iron Dome is pretty strong. I don't know if it's officially, able to deal with a ton of ballistic missiles, especially if Israel didn't have the intelligence that would happen. Now, granted, Israel's intelligence has been pretty damn incredible over the past couple of months. So I would imagine if Iran is prepping anything, Israel would know about it. And so Israel hopefully is taking precautions against that if it is happening. But those are one of the headlines that is obviously going to get markets to be a little off tilt right now. Thomas says Meta is gold. That's why it's going up. That's also a fair point. Where's the VIX? Let me check the VIX right now. VIX is not up that much. VIX is up 1%. So it's not like this is making things super, super volatile right now. But the VIX is indeed up just a little bit right now. Where's oil? Where's oil on this news? Up. Oil just went green. Damn it. Oil just went green. It's still down. But oil, I mean, it's still down below 70. But look at that. Literally just went green. It had to be that headline. There's no other way. Because, like, again, Middle Eastern instability has not caused oil to go red. But this is like more than instability. This is like a regional war that would like legit break out if this, or it seems like it could happen. That's what the market is perceiving it at that. Oxy is up. Yep, Oxy is up. All the oil companies are probably going up on this. By the way, Goldman Sachs put out an article a couple days ago that said oil has been short the most it's been short in the past 5 years. So if you think there's a catalyst to get oil to go higher, there is a squeeze that could potentially happen. Now, granted, you would need a good string of catalysts, given the Saudis are going to keep pumping. Maybe the Iran thing is a catalyst, but oil right here. Oxy's up right now. XLE is probably up. Here's all the oil and gas companies on the right-hand side of my screen. Look at that. They all went green all at once. Chevron, Shell, Oxy, ExxonMobil, Phillips, Suncor Energy, Schlumberger. All these guys went green right on that news. Biotech is taking a hit. I wonder why. XBI is the ETF for biotech. You know, rate cuts are good for biotech, but at the end of the day, it's so hard to justify buying biotech as an ETF because so many of those companies are so, like, you just don't know if they're going to win or fail with their drugs. So I'm not long XBI. I do think it'll benefit from more rate cuts, but I don't know if rate cuts enough or, you know, what gets the market excited to take a risk on biotech. PMI just came out 47.3. Was that coming out at 9:45? Did I miss it? Yeah, it came out at 9:45. I missed it. All right, so here we go. PMI, the market was expecting 47. We came in at 47.3. That's good. That's not bad. That's not horrible. Global manufacturing PMI right there, 47.3. Last month we had 47.9, so it is lower than last month. However, the market expected 47. We came in at 47.3. Now, is that affecting the market? S&P is not up on that news. It's barely moving because the Iran stuff, I think, is scaring the market a little bit more. We're going to get ISM PMI in 14 minutes, and then we'll get JOLTS opening in 14 minutes as well. So JOLTS, the market is expecting 7.65 million jobs to be available. We'll see how many come in. And then PMI, we're expecting 47.5 on manufacturing. Global manufacturing was 47. We came in at 47.3. And we'll see what happens there. Palantir's green. Did Palantir actually go green? You know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think a lot of what's powering, I don't think Israel found the pagers on their own. I think there was a company that helped them, and maybe that company is called Palantir. So, I mean, one could argue Middle Eastern instability, although not good for the markets, it might be something that could help Palantir. Not saying I want that to happen to help Palantir. I'm just saying the inevitable truth is that if something, you know, if their services are needed more because you get into a regional war, that would be more momentum for them. Lockheed Martin, are they up right now? Yep, Lockheed's green as well. Raytheon is probably green on this news. Raytheon is green as well. Good old defense contractors, baby. Military industrial complex. I mean, it is what it is, bro. You get a war headline and people buy the war stocks. I mean, truly, it's quite literally the most American thing. War breaks out. How do we make money off of it? And then boom, you buy these defense stocks. So that might actually end up, you know, at least to an extent, maybe not tanking Palantir, but in general, if we break into a war, it's not good for the economy, obviously. And that could hurt a lot of different stocks. And Palantir is included in one of those stocks as well. Amit, do you think that Palantir has been tested now in terms of maintaining 37, so it is still subject to a correction? No, I don't think it's been tested enough yet. So Palantir hit 37. I mean, let's look at the chart. Palantir hit 37 officially and started holding it. Call it 9/23, so September 23rd. It's been 7 days where we've held 37, and in there we've like dipped a bunch of times. Now, I think 30s, I would say we're pretty tested on the 30s. It's been almost 2 months where we've held 30. I can confidently say I think going below 30 is going to be tough for Palantir. Going below 37, I don't think is going to be tough given it's barely tested. But if we hold 37 for the next couple of weeks and after the election, then yeah, dude, I mean, 37 might be the new damn normal, which is insane to say. But I do think we need a couple more weeks to hold up on that. And so far, I mean, dude, if Peter Thiel's selling $700 million is not going to get Palantir to go down, I really don't know what's going to get outside of a crappy earnings, which I don't think they're going to have a crappy earnings. Like I legit don't. I think they're going to have a good earnings. I mean, like we're seeing the momentum in front of us with all these press releases and all these AIP extensions. So I think if their earnings are decent, they're going to do well, or at least keep their multiple. If not, then maybe we see some downside momentum. But as crazy as it is to say, 37 might become the new normal for Palantir, which is pretty damn incredible. I mean, think of the amount of investors that bought this shit at $6, $7, $8, $9, $10, $11, $12 And the biggest fear right now is, all right, do we tank back to 18 and all my paper gains go away? If Palantir holds 37, I know the valuation's up there, but if it holds it, you're kind of, allowed to say, hey, well, these gains might be around for a while versus just disappearing if we have a massive correction. Meta right here at 575, S&P at 569, Robinhood 2333, Tesla 257, Q's at 42. They're down about 1%. So NASDAQ just fell 1%. There you go. Bitcoin falling 1.5% again. NASDAQ moving with Bitcoin, or Bitcoin moving with the NASDAQ. And you got oil stocks that are up on the day. PayPal as well, down about 0.5%. Where are the crypto stocks? I imagine they are getting nuked right now. MicroStrategy is down 2%. Cypher's down 4%. IREN's down 2%. Good old Bitcoin miners are down another 4%. Coinbase down about 3%. BitX, 2x leverage ETF, that's down 2.7%. Again, I don't hate the Bitcoin miners, but if Bitcoin doesn't start moving, these miners, they're just not in the right position to gain momentum. So we're going to need a little bit more movement on Bitcoin to see the miners start to do well. Max 7, only Meta and Google are green. Amazon's down, Nvidia's down, Amazon now down 1.3, Nvidia down 1%, Tesla down 1.5, Microsoft down 2%. Why is Microsoft down 2%? That's a bit aggressive. And then Apple down about 3% as well. Thoughts on Qualcomm? Honestly, well, I bet Qualcomm's down right now because of the Apple news. Let me see. Qualcomm, it has to be down because of Apple. Yeah, down 2.3%. It could be down because of the Iran stuff, but it's also down because of Apple, because they help Apple with the chips on the iPhone. So let's talk about Apple, because we didn't get to do the Apple segment. So news broke this morning from Barclays. And the news from Barclays, which is kind of diametrically opposed to what I'm seeing on the ground, and also what I think a lot of people in the comments were seeing on the ground as well, is that demand for the iPhone 16 is really bad. And they have indications that Apple is cutting production. And the reason they're cutting production is because they don't have a ton of iPhone 16 demand. So this news came out. Apple's now at 226. It was 230 in the pre-markets right when that news came out. And so the argument here is that the company is cutting iPhone 16 production due to weak demand. Now, China's really good for Apple. 99% of their supply chains are, or not 99%, but you get my point, right? A lot of their supply chains are in China, which is good for better margins, overall growth, etc. However, if there is lacking demand for the new iPhone, it doesn't matter how efficient or how stimulated the Chinese supply chains are if the workers in the supply chains don't have any products to build because there's not enough demand to deliver more iPhones. So it's not like there's not going to be any products to build, but if there's not an influx of demand, you don't need supply chains to be that much more efficient because it's not going to do that much. You don't need to get that much product out the door because you don't have that much product to sell. Fun fact, Tim Cook is the reason why Apple is so integrated into China. Before the Mac came out, this was in 2000. I forgot the name of the model of the Mac, but it was one of their best-selling computers ever. And Steve Jobs had estimated that they would have to sell that they were going to sell 25 million units in the holiday season back in the Christmas time, the December season of the year 2000. He sent Tim Cook in July of 2000 to China, and he said, "I don't care how you get it done. Make sure we have enough supply chains to sell, and efficiencies in our supply chain to sell 25 million computers." And Tim Cook went to China. Look at Apple. Wow. Going down 3%. Tim Cook went to China and he got the job done. That's why Tim Cook became the next CEO after Steve Jobs, because Jobs actually trusted him to get the job done. And then Tim Cook went to China. He did what he had to do when it came to negotiating. And that's when they signed the deals with Foxconn. And then the whole China-Apple relationship started. Now, you could argue maybe that relationship has not been the best given what's going on with the CCP and with their economy, but it's worked out pretty nicely for Apple shareholders over the past 2 decades. If there is not that much demand for the iPhone 16, maybe you don't need the supply chains to be that efficient, and China stimulus doesn't matter. But anecdotally, I went to the Apple store over the weekend. It was great. There was tons of demand. A bunch of people in the comments underneath that Twitter post, they said, "Hey, we went to our local iPhone store. We could barely get an employee to help us, and there was a line out the door." So I think there's a lot of conflicting narratives between the equity analysts that are trying to project Apple demand for the iPhone and also the actual people going into the stores and what it's like to deal with the Apple products. And until Q3 earnings, we're really just not going to know what it looks like. Nvidia's down about 1%. Tesla down about 2% now on the day. Robinhood 2319. Baidu, JD, Neo, Alibaba, those are up. FXI, China's ETF, that's up 1.3%. Oracle's down. Carnival Cruise now down 4%. SoFi down 1.78%. Apple down 3%. Pretty much everything is down. Again, the S&P is down as well based on this Iran headline. We'll get Jolt in about 6 minutes in ISM But the broader market is falling based on this news. Was it the iMac? I think it was the iMac, dude. It was in the year 2000. I might be wrong by a year, might be 2001, 2002, but it was in that 1995 to 2000 time period where they were selling so many computers and they had so much demand and everyone wanted to get their hands on the iMac versus the Windows PC that was kind of perceived as boring at the time because, like, you know, Microsoft, like Windows just wasn't as exciting versus the Mac OS. And that's when they needed a lot of supply chains, and that's where China officially became prudent for them. Wow, oil's up. Is oil up? Hold on, is oil up? Yeah, oh my God, oil is going up. This is not good. Goodness gracious, dude. Oh my God, this is not good. This is so annoying, bro. This is like, I'm actually annoyed, dude. This is so annoying. I did a 10-minute segment this morning on why oil going down was great. And then Iran's like, hey, we're going to send some missiles. And then this is so annoying, bro. Like, this is actually annoying. This was so good for inflation. It's still going to be good for October CPI, but if this thing runs back to 75, it's not going to be good for November CPI. Like, it's going to be pretty damn annoying. If you own oil stocks, congrats. You got some gains at least today on oil stocks, but that's not good. I mean, we still don't even know if this Iran thing is real or not. So, like, we also have to figure out, is that going to, like, be a real thing? But the headlines alone are enough to cause oil to start going up. All right, so that's what we got in the context of oil. A couple other headlines right here. So in Q3, well, first of all, Larry Fink said, quote, we see repeatedly every year, every 4 years, when we have a U.S. election, everyone says that it's going to have a dramatic change in the market, and over time it doesn't. I know it's great for the media to talk about. I know it's great for everyone to focus on, but the reality is that the economy, the markets are way beyond one election, way beyond one action. So Larry Fink thinks that the election is going to have no impact on the economy. I kind of don't know if he's right or wrong. I'm hoping the election has no impact and we can just move forward. But Larry Fink did come out today and he said, hey, the election's probably not going to be that big of a deal. Q3 largest performers in the stock market. PayPal was up 35%. DoorDash was up 32%. Fortinet, cybersecurity stock, up 30%. Mercado Libre up 28%. Constellation Energy up 27%. Starbucks up 26%. Tesla up 25%. Those were the top 7 winners of Q3. You got the S&P right here falling down about 1%. Top 7 losers in Q3, SMCI down 50%, Moderna down 42%, Dexcom down 42%. Dexcom, I believe that's the glucose monitoring company. Dollar Tree down 34%, CrowdStrike down 28%, although CrowdStrike has still recovered. Intel down 24%, and then Lam Research down 23%. So those were your 7 losers of Q3 and your 7 winners of Q3 as well. S&P 500 went up about 5% in Q3. Dow Jones up about 8%. I think IWM about 4%. So overall, Q3 was strong for the broader market, but we're starting off October with some volatility. Not for Palantir, though. Palantir 37.30. Palantir is green. Palantir is green. Robinhood 23.27 down a little bit on the day. Tesla 256 down about 2%. Apple now 225 down 3%. We get jolts in 2 minutes that will determine what happens to the S&P 500 most likely. I think if we have less jobs than expected, the S&P is going to take a little bit of a hit because that means we might have a growth concern. If we have more jobs than expected or come in line with expectations, I think we're probably flat, maybe slightly up, but this Iran headline is going to be hard to go up on. So let's see what we get in the context of jolts data as well. I picked up BABA this morning. Yeah, I've talked to a lot of people that are starting to get back into China. I mean, look, I don't think it's a horrible trade, especially if they keep stimulating. I don't trust China, so I'm not getting into it, but I don't think it's a horrible trade to get into. Honestly, I don't know enough about China, and I kind of don't feel like trading it, dude. Like, I feel like I just don't want the extra anxiety of having to, like, pay attention to what happens in China. Like, it affects the global economy, but I don't want, like, 20% of my portfolio stuck on what the CCP does. Even though I do think it will be a good trade for a lot of people, I just personally don't want to deal with that. At least for not now. Bro, Palantir's pumping. What? What do you mean Palantir's pumping? 37.37? I don't know, guys. I mean, again, it's a better price than what Peter Thiel sold. I'll try to see if there's any news on Palantir outside of this Iran stuff, but nothing that I'm seeing yet. All right, so let's see ISM and Jolts. ISM and Jolts. ISM and JOLTS, we're looking for that. ISM, we want higher than 47.5. JOLTS, we want higher than 7.655 million. Those are the two numbers we're looking for. Those are the two numbers we're looking for. Let's see what we get. Let's see what we get. Should get it in about 30 seconds. And hopefully it's not too bad. STT, I just saw your super chat. I'll respond to it in just a second. All right. PMI comes in at 47.2. That's a miss. That's not good. I mean, it's not horrible, but it's not good. So that's a miss. It's actually in line with last month. It was at 47.5. Wow. Look at JOLTS. Holy crap. JOLTS came in at 8 million. Whoa. JOLTS at 8 million. Oh my God. Palantir's at 37.47. Oh my God. Where's the S&P? The S&P has to be moving on this. The S&P's up. Yep, the S&P is up now. We'll see how long it lasts. Wow, JOLTS comes in at 8 million? Holy crap, dude. Okay, the S&P was up for a little bit. It was up for, you see that green candle right there? It's like right, look at that green. Look at that. We're struggling. There's that little bit of green we got. Holy crap, 8 million jobs. The market expected 7.6 million. JOLTS is job openings in America. So if you believe the BLS, then we have 8.04 million jobs open in the United States of America. The market expected we would have 7.655 million. That's good because that means more people have a chance to get employed, which is a good thing for the economy. It's a good thing for GDP growth. The question, because I know a lot of you in the chat are ready to already type it, is do you believe these numbers, given they've been revised so much? I don't know. I don't know if you believe that. I don't know if we can believe these numbers, dude. I don't freaking know. I don't know. But the market at least is kind of pumping. Dude, I feel like we would be hitting all-time highs right now in the S&P if it wasn't for that Iran headline. We were at 574 in the morning. Now we're barely at 570. That JOLTS report was great. We should probably be closer like 575, 576. Iran definitely just stopped that momentum from happening. At least that's what it feels like. 50% are ghost jobs. You can make an argument 50% are ghost jobs. That's why the market might not be believing that. But I think the market wouldn't care about that whole ghost job argument if the Iran headline didn't come out. Unfortunately, it seems like the Iran headline is what's stopping it right now. Where's Palantir? 569 on the S&P. Palantir, 37.34. Let me check my order flow resistance. Where's the momentum coming for Palantir? So at 38, let's look at 38. What's the resistance? At 38, there are at 38.50, there's 63,000 shares. And at 38, there's 5,000 shares. So really 38 doesn't look like it'll be that hard. 38.50 will be hard. Obviously, we need a ton of volume to get there. But 38.50 is where you have a much bigger wall for Palantir. Okay, let's get some updates. Let's get some updates on this JOLTS data.
Hi, thank you. Sarah, we're looking at construction spending. It was estimated to be reversing last month's drop, but that's not to be, down 1/10. And that follows a negative revision for last month from down 0.3% to down 0.5%, which means last month remains the weakest level since Feb of 21. And this doesn't improve it very much. JOLTS, job openings and labor turnover, expected to be a bit under 7.7 million, comes in better, over 8 million, 8,040,000. And that follows a slightly revised 7,711,000. That number ends up being the best since May, May, when it was 8,223,000. So an improvement there on the jobs front. Now we have 4 different categories for the ISM PMIs on the manufacturing headline for September, 47.2, and that follows 47.2. Now the 6th consecutive read under 50, which is contraction. If we look at prices paid, this is a component we want to be moving lower. We're expecting 53.5, a huge drop. This is key. 48.3. That is the weakest level of the year, and that takes us back to the end of last year when it was 45.2. New orders have had 5 negative reads under 50 in a row. Does this make it 6? It certainly does. 46.1, and it's odd because 46.1 actually is better than our last look. So we see the deterioration remains. Last month's 44.6 was the weakest since May of 23. And finally, ISM employment, important week for an employment index because, of course, tomorrow's ADP, followed by Friday's big jobs report, 43.9, a huge drop, 43.9.
All right, so that JOLTS data is not really doing too much in the context of the broader market. That Iran news, wow, 37.45 on Palantir. That Iran news is still hurting the market. Not hurting Meta, though. Why is Meta pumping, bro? Where do we get 581 from Meta? Oh, by the way, on the Palantir news, I don't see anything. We got a couple patents today. No new deals, no new contracts, no new government contracts. There was $80 billion worth of government deals given out yesterday. Palantir got none of that. So nothing crazy outside of people just buying the stock. Where's Meta? We got to find out what the hell's going on with Meta. For the super chat, ST, thank you for the $2 in maple syrup money from Canada. Thoughts on SCHD? So this is the Schwab dividend ETF. My thoughts are that if you want to be long dividends and have a 4% yield on a basket of dividend stocks without picking one of those dividend stocks, then this is a great ETF to go long on. So if you want to have a dividend portfolio, this is one of the major dividend players. You get a yield on it, and you don't have to worry about picking the best dividend stocks because it picks it for you. So I think that's not a horrible decision. Now, maybe you want to get a better entry price because the thing might be up this year, and maybe, right now is not the best price to get in, but for dividends, I think that's like an easy way to sleep well at night with your dividend picks. Okay, Meta. I see no news on Meta. I have a headline from Jim Cramer. He said Meta is not an expensive stock. That's the headline I have on Cramer. That's it. Did Cramer pump Meta? Dude, why is Meta hitting all-time highs? This is crazy. The glasses stuff is not coming out for the next couple of years. I don't know if people think, well, here's one argument for stimulus on Meta that I thought about yesterday. Temu and Shein are some of the largest e-commerce advertisers for Meta. They're Chinese companies. China just stimulated. That means they have a ton more money. Guess where they're going to spend their marketing dollars? Maybe on Meta. Honestly, probably on Meta, Instagram, Facebook, etc. So maybe the China stimulus for Meta, because Meta is not allowed in China, is that Chinese companies just spend more advertising dollars on the platform. I think that's a very realistic possibility, but I don't know if that's worth another 2% after it pumped last week already. There is a 3-to-1 split on the Schwab thing. Then yeah, I mean, then that's not too bad. So it's going to split from 84. So that 84 becomes what? 84. It'll become $28. I mean, look, the split is not a reason to buy it, right? The split is just whatever, right? That's just it just makes it more comfortable if you want not a cheaper price, but a lower thing to look at when you want to buy more shares. Year to date, this thing is up 10% as well. And the yield on this is 3.6%. So yeah, the split, I don't think is a reason to buy it. I don't think it's going to make the stock go higher, but it's one of those things to take into account. S&P is now at 568, down an official 1%. S&P is literally at the level where JPOW was at, where it was at when JPOW was speaking. S&P is at the level that it was at when JPOW was speaking yesterday. All of this, I think, is because of Iran. All of it. I think all of this volatility is literally because of Iran. I just got the Wall Street Journal notification. Iran is preparing an imminent ballistic missile attack against Israel. So the Wall Street Journal just put it out. That means every media outlet is picking up on that news, and now we might see that. Now we really might see the S&P have some more volatility based on that headline. Where is Palantir? Palantir still holding 37 nicely. Holding 37 very nicely. Hey, Amit just got here and looked at the markets. What happened? Iran is apparently going to launch ballistic missiles at Israel, and that's why the markets are tanking right now. That's why it's happening. Isn't Temu in New York? They have offices in New York, but Temu is owned by Pinduoduo, which is a Chinese company. So Temu just spends a lot on advertising, dude, like a lot. I mean, that's the only reason I can expect for Meta to go up right now. I mean, why is Meta green on the Iran headline? This makes no sense. Everything, things should be down, dude. Things should not be look at the Max 7. Everything's red except Meta. Someone knows something about Meta, dude. Are they going to announce something after hours or something? Meta should not. Meta is. You cannot be at all-time highs with a headline like that comes out, which is not bullish for Meta in any capacity. There's no way we're going to have more advertising if Iran launches missiles in Israel. Like that's not a good thing. So I have no clue why that's going up right now, but that's getting some momentum. Netflix cancellation surge. Yeah, I saw that news last night. So Reed Hastings, which I don't know why this happened. Reed Hastings officially endorsed Harris, but he endorsed Harris a while ago, and people started canceling their Netflix subscription because of his endorsement. He's the founder of Netflix for Kamala Harris. But he gave her $7 million like a couple months ago. So I don't know why that news caught the headlines yesterday, but that is one headwind that has affected Netflix right here. Netflix at $705. Rocket Lab down about 4% of the day. Palantir still green, 37.22. Got a little bit of a red candle from 37.40, but it's green. Nvidia is down about 2% on the day. Robinhood 23.10. If this is the black swan event that messes up the market, dude, freaking port strikes and now Iran launching a missile, like this is like, this is why I took out my initial out of my Robinhood options. This is why. You just never know, dude. You can never get too greedy. You can never get too greedy. When Robinhood was 22.85, I said, you know what? It's time to take out my initial. Now, if I had waited a couple days, I could have got it out at like 23.40. I get it. But like, you can never time it perfectly. But still, you just never know, bro. You just never freaking know what could happen. And like, I hope this doesn't turn into a big thing. But if it does, Robinhood's going back to $15 if we have some full scale recession. Like it's just, there's just no way it's able to hold up because the broader market's going to fall. The S&P probably falls back to 540. Look at the S&P. It's already down 1% at 5. Like this is not a good thing. And so sometimes you got to risk mitigate to some extent. Who thinks this isn't because of Iran? I feel like this is because of Iran, dude. This to me is only because of Iran. This is not because of the port strikes. The port strikes we've known about for the past 24 hours, markets were flat in the morning. This is because of a headline that Iran might be launching missiles at Israel. And it's not really the headline of just the missiles themselves. It's what that's going to create in terms of retaliation, because Israel's not going to let that fly. Israel's going to launch back. And like, if it's like a legit back and forth, not just like pagers being blown up, but like, no, they're actually going at it, then you've got a war. And then we've got to pick sides, and we're obviously going to pick Israel's side, and then we're going to get involved in this shit. And then it's just like, it's a bad thing. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but that's the headline that the market's reacting to right now. And that's why you're seeing some momentum. Robinhood under 23. Well, there you go. It's getting hit. It is absolutely getting hit on that news, dude. Absolutely getting hit on that news. Oh my God. Doug says, if it is Iran, we will be back tomorrow. Okay, so that's funny, but that's also true, because every time Iran has a threat like this, they never follow through. The question is, are they really that upset about what Israel did to Lebanon? And if they're like actually pissed off at this point, then maybe this is not a fake threat. Oh, Palantir just tanked. Palantir just fell from 37. There you go. Palantir 36.93 just fell. Fuck, dude. Now, yeah, the entire market's getting. Gold is up. Energy is up 2%. And that's it. Tesla's down 3% on the day. China, energy, and gold are up. That's it. Everything that's risky is down. Pretty much everything that's risky is down. I don't know if it's going to keep falling throughout the day, but at least it's down so far. S&P right here at 568 on the day. Why is oil spiking if the news of where it comes from is bad? So if Iran is not able to produce as much oil, or Afghanistan or Saudi Arabia, or all the different places that produce oil in the Middle East because of a regional war, that means we have less supply of oil. Less supply with increased demand means that prices have to go up. And the market's kind of front running that right now, even though there hasn't been a regional war breakout. But the market is thinking, hey, if there is, we need to like start repricing oil. And I guess we'll find out over the next coming weeks if there is a regional war, and then oil might go up, or will go up if there is. This is also, technically this is kind of good for Tesla, because oil going down is like actually a disincentive to buy Teslas, right? If gas prices are cheap. But at this point, I don't think Tesla's trading on oil. I think Tesla's trading on FSD, and if they can deliver the goods on that. So I think that's what the market cares a little bit more on this. SMCI is the strongest right now. Where's SMCI? Look at that. SMCI green. SMCI defense stocks, oil, and gold are up right now. Everything else taking a crap. This is so annoying, bro. Yesterday was so fun. You had so many narratives come together, started to make a lot of sense. We're like, all right, October is going to be a little volatile for the election. We got this port strike thing we'll deal with. But then this headline is what really creates some pain. But again, we'll see. I mean, Iran has had statements like this plenty of times, but we're gonna have to see if that actually does happen at the end of the day. Palantir insider selling. We talked about that this morning. Again, my thoughts are that it doesn't really matter. Peter Thiel sold plenty of shares, and the stock goes up. The stock's down right now. We're getting a nice little tank right here at 36.78, but still, doesn't matter that much at the end of the day for Palantir. 36.75 right here on Palantir. Do you think Iran buys puts and then announces they'll attack to fund their war? I mean, dude, if they did that, that would be pretty wild. No, I don't know, dude. I don't think anyone has any headlines on this. Let me see if CNBC has any headlines, if they're covering this. Oh yeah, we got it. All right, so we got some coverage. Let's get some coverage on this Iran stuff. Let's see what people are saying.
News that the U.S., quote, has indications that Iran is preparing to imminently launch a ballistic missile attack against Israel. Now, just for a little bit of color here, administration officials had been anticipating a response from Iran, but as of Monday night, 2 officials had told NBC that the U.S. had not seen any movement of assets or equipment to indicate that this was imminent. So obviously something new here this morning. An Israel military spokesman is also speaking just now, saying that we are at high readiness together with our allies, and that spokesperson saying further that our aerial defense systems are fully prepared. So we do know that the State Department will be briefing at 1:15 p.m. today. We'll be keeping an eye on that, and we'll know more then, if not sooner. We do know so far that the Treasury yields and the dollar index both briefly dipped on this. Guys, back to you.
Have we heard from President Biden at all, or just the comments from Secretary Austin?
Just those comments. We haven't heard from Biden. There is currently not anything on this on President Biden's schedule today related to this. We do expect that to change, though, probably in the next few minutes here.
All right, Megan, thank you very much. Megan Casella, as we see a reversal in crude oil, now jumping to the highest in a few days, but still a jump on that news. WTI crossing the $70 a barrel threshold. The market also lower.
Yo, shout out to Sarah Eisen. She's definitely sick. You can tell it in her voice, right? But she shows up to work and she performs like a boss. But we can all tell, like, it's not just me, right? She's definitely sick. We can tell in her voice.
At least if you look at stocks, got that raft of economic data, and perhaps the treasuries, which are rallying further, teeing off of these kind of scary headlines, but also some of the economic data that we just got. Manufacturing PMIs worse than expected. As Rick just reported, the prices paid index, which is how they're passing on inflation, a sharp drop as well. That in part reflects what we've seen with oil prices, which have been weaker, although better jobs numbers, at least on the job openings, above 8 million. And we know the Fed's been paying attention to that ratio of job openings per unemployed people. And that's something where they've focused on the weakness lately.
The VIX is up 20%. Really? Oh, shit. Yeah. VIX is up. Oh boy. What a beautiful start to a scary month that is October. 15% I have in the VIX. Some of you guys might have other numbers, but VIX is up. VIX is indeed up.
We did hear from Fed Chair Powell yesterday at the NABE speech, and it was market moving, and there was some important information in there. He says, this is not a committee that feels like it's in a hurry to cut rates quickly. We will be guided by the incoming data. And if the economy slows more than we expect, then we can cut faster. If it slows less than we expect, then we can cut slower. And the takeaway on that is that expectations went back down to 25 basis point cuts for the next meeting in November, because we're not in a hurry, right? That's kind of messaging. Maybe we're not necessarily so keen on the 50 basis point cut. However, Raphael Bostic, the Atlanta Fed president, also out talking.
Okay, so they're talking about the Fed. We talked about that already. Let's see how the market's reacting. So the market's really tanking right now. Palantir, again, tanking. Put it into context. It's, it's like, it is what it is. We're still up a lot for the year, obviously. But Palantir right here down 1.24. Robinhood down 2.5 on the day S&P 567. I mean, 1% down is not a tank, but it was at 575 in the morning, right? So you are seeing like some decent volatility there, down about 1%. Apple at 225. That the Barclays headline was going to take them down no matter what. So that one was definitely going to be down. Nvidia down 2.4. Iran headline not good for them. HIMS down about 1.9. Coinbase down 6%. Why? Because good old Bitcoin is at 62,742. Where's SoFi? Where's SoFi on this news? SoFi down 2.4%. Of course. It is what it is. I mean, let's see. I mean, okay, so here's a question. How many of you guys believe the Iran headline? Do you guys think it's real? Do you think the United States is kind of just like putting it out there to put it out there? Do you think there's some like wonkiness to this headline, or do you think this headline is like legit? I mean, Biden, like he should be, if this is a legit headline, I guess they're trying to figure out the intelligence sources on how bad it is before he like addresses the nation on this, because you don't want to scare people, right? And like address the nation like that, like for something that's not, for a thinly veiled threat that Iran is probably not going to engage in. But if it's legit, yeah, I think the American people need to get some more information on that. I kind of do these repeated attacks. Eventually, Iran was going to get pissed off. I don't believe anything I hear on the internet except you, Amit. It's giving me so much responsibility, dude. Oh my gosh. Israel has just announced that they are expecting the attack in the next few hours. Do you have a source on that? I would love to get a source on that, because that means that it absolutely is legit. I mean, I'm looking at a lot of media sources right now that are saying this is happening, or that are saying like that this threat is real, and it's not just like some random threat. Damn, bro, this is how we're going to start out October. Like, this is wild, bro. Nike is up. Why the hell is Nike up? Well, actually, Nike does have a lot of China exposure. To be honest, Nike is a China dude. Bill Ackman, every time he finds a way. Nike is a big China stock. You can't argue that. I mean, China's good for Nike. Israel has not identified aerial threat from Iran. IDF from the BBC. Okay, that's good to know, at least for now. Between the port strike and Middle East, we have 2 black swans. Yeah, I mean, look, if this port strike lasts longer than a week, that is officially a black swan, in my opinion. And then if we get into a regional war, that's another black swan. And that theoretically can ruin the 2024 rally. By the way, I am not fear-mongering here, all right? And I'm not trying to be like getting everybody scared. I have been very bullish this year, and I've balanced that bullishness with a lot of objectivity looking at the bearish data. But when you see a headline like this, like, I'm also acknowledging maybe it's Iran just being Iran and they're saying whatever the hell they want. But there's another part that says no, Iran might legit be pissed off, and if they take action, that's not good for stocks. That is going to be obviously a bad thing. I don't want that to happen, by the way. Trust me, there's no one more than me that wants this damn market to be bullish. I mean, it's been a good year. Hopefully we can continue this year. We just got to get through October right now. 10:30. The 10:30 slam happened early today. It ended as soon as Iran came out with this headline. I have dry powder, so if we have a large correction, I'm all for it. That's fair. I mean, I have some dry powder as well. So if we see Robinhood below 21, I mean, I am loading that dip aggressively. But let's see if that does happen. Don't you remember 2 months ago when Iran said they were going to launch? They launched Israel, shut down all the missiles, and everybody walked away. Yes, that is why I'm kind of like 50-50 here, because 2 months ago Iran said they were going to have this massive attack. The day came, then they informed the UK Prime Minister. For some reason, they told the United Kingdom, actually, we're going to do it in 24 hours. And then the UK told the US, hey, Iran told us they're going to do it in 24 hours. And then Biden was like, all right, so we'll wait 24 hours. And then 24 hours came, there was no attacks. A week passed, there was no attack, and then everyone forgot about it. That's what happened 2 months ago. This time, given what Israel did to the Hezbollah official, I don't know how much Iran is kidding around here, because it seems like they're really pissed off. Now, granted, they were really pissed off 2 months ago, but the Lebanon conflict might really be pushing them over the edge, and so Now we're going to have to see what ends up happening here. Meta's still up 1%. That is insane, dude. I don't know how Meta's holding up 1%. But Meta's holding up 1%. When is Iran not pissed off? Look, that's a good point. That's why my take here is, I mean, I have no idea. Like, my take here is it's going to be one or the other. But, and I know that's not really a take, but the broader point here is I don't think we know how. If I had to bet, I feel like I would say if Iran's launching an attack, they launch something to like kind of show their strength, but it's not like some, oh my God, like regional war, we're getting into World War III type of attack. Because Iran knows they're going to get wiped off the face of the earth if they do that. Like, this is why Iran doesn't ever really go as hard, because they know what's going to happen if they actually try to fuck with the United States or the allies. Like, they know this. Otherwise, they would have tried to be more aggressive over the past couple of years. However, the Hezbollah stuff makes it a lot more complicated. And now, we're going to have to see how serious Iran really is at the end of the day. Amit, what is your origin? I'm from India. I was born in the United States, but my parents were born in India. The U.S. expects that the potentially forthcoming Iran attack on Israel could be similar in scope and scale as the attack in April. Okay, that's good to know. So that attack in April was bad. It was not World War III bad, but it was bad. So if that's the case, remember the S&P. Let's go to the S&P chart. The S&P in April fell about 4%, I think. Yeah, so the S&P was at 528 and we fell all the way to 493. Wait. Is this accurate? We fell to 413? Really? We fell to 413 in April? From 505? Oh, no, it was from 505. Well, technically it was from 530. Holy crap. How much of a decline was that? 530 minus 413. That was a... No way, dude. There's no way this is accurate. I'm looking at Meta. See, that's the problem. Because Meta is at 500 as well. So I thought it was like the S&P. Sorry. Okay. So in April, we had 521 to 490. That was the decline, which was basically a 6% decline. So if we had a 6% decline today based on that, that would be 530. We're looking at the S&P, which would actually be down a little bit more than 6% because 575 was the top. So I don't know if the market has to fall 6% based on that headline, but if we had a similar reaction to what happened in April based on the scope and scale of the attack, we'd be kind of looking at 530 on the S&P if that happens. Guy says, watch us rip tomorrow, like 2% tomorrow on no news. Hey, man, that could happen. That could happen. It really is a question of how serious is Iran on this stuff. And I guess we'll see what happened in April. They launched an attack as well in Israel. Again, the Iron Dome kind of helped protect Israel from a lot of the stuff. There was some damage, but it wasn't World War III type of attack. It was bad, but it wasn't that bad, like what it seems like the major headlines are implying this attack could look like. And so that's what created the 6% decline. And I guess we'll see if that continues to happen this time as well. All right, let's get some market updates, and we'll keep going from there, and we'll see if we get anything else. And I'll keep an eye on the headlines to see what else develops here.
Banks are making the right moves on this sort of more aggressive easing campaign, coordinated easing. It's a good time to talk to her. Also, we'll get her thoughts on China, whether all this stimulus is for real.
Meantime, we're watching the geopolitical headlines today and the potential market impact after stocks did close out Q3 with fresh highs. Joining us here at Post 9 this morning, Goldman Sachs Chief U.S. Equity Strategist David Kostin keeps his year-end at 5,600. DK, good to have you back.
Nice to see you.
You stayed with the target because you expect some chop in the next couple months?
Well, the historical experience ahead of elections is the market tends to go down, volatility goes higher, and then once that uncertainty is resolved, the equity market tends to rally. And so that's the broad framework that we think about. I think what's most interesting, Carl, is the mid-cap stocks. And in our conversations with portfolio managers, that is an area that is really not well focused on. It tends to be large cap stocks or small cap stocks. And there's a lot of compelling arguments on why mid-cap stocks, think of the S&P 400 as one sort of representation of that. And the reason that is they have a long track record for decades of outperforming. Their valuation right now is around 15 times, in line with their historical average, whereas the rest of the market, say the S&P 500, trades at 22 times, very, very expensive versus history. They have the best torque to a Fed cut in rates. When the Fed begins to cut over 3 months, over 12 months, mid-cap stocks outperform large and small cap. And so that's the argument. And the intuition or the analytics behind why that's the case is that 25% of the balance sheet of a mid-cap stock is floating rate. So that's a one-to-one benefit. When you have the Fed cutting, you have less interest expense, you have increase in earnings, positive earnings revisions tends to lead to outperformance. In contrast, larger cap stocks have around 7%, so not quite as much torque. So that's the framework and why there's best performance in mid-cap stocks.
What's mid-cap? Sorry, just real quick.
Yeah, mid-cap's going to be somewhere between $5 billion and $25 billion in market cap. That's going to be your the sweet spot.
Let's go to Bloomberg as well, see what they're saying.
Supply disruptions. You can see here Brent rising more than $2 a barrel to 73.77. NYMEX crude up more than $2 a barrel as well at $70.28. We have Morgan Lucas here in the studio. He is the CEO of Lucas Oil, which produces more than 300 products. I was looking through the list of things. I wanted to say petroleum-based products, but then I see you also have solvent-based products for cleaning vehicles and boats, and you also have gun lube and other kind of, you go out beyond the automotive industry is my point here. What is the goal of that kind of diversification? Is that part of your strategy?
A cornerstone of our company is to solve problems, to fix everyday problems. That's how it actually started in the beginning. Was my father and mother owned a small trucking company. My father was a very self-educated man in every aspect, hardworking, common sense kind of person, and basically developed a product for his own needs. At that point in time, they were seeing a lot of parts failures in their trucks, and this was across the industry in the 1980s. And he developed a product to reduce the amount of friction in the engine, which reduced engine temperatures, operating temperatures. And once they realized how well it worked, they started forming the business at that point. And that mindset of solving problems for everyday users is kind of just it's matriculated in its own way.
And let's talk about a recent announcement of yours, of course, opening a new all-grease manufacturing facility in Indiana. And this isn't something that the normal person probably knows, but there's a grease shortage right now. So talk us through a little bit about what you're seeing there when it comes to the headwinds.
Well, the irony of this strike going on right now is after the last supply chain issue started, we saw a massive just demand spike for grease, but as well as we were outsourcing manufacturing at that point, just because that's how we always did it. That was my father's vision for it at the time because we wanted to see what it was going to grow into. And I had been pushing for a few years to start manufacturing our own grease in-house. And basically the timing was perfect. We jumped on board with it, and it's really helping kind of take that control back for us as a company. We really, again, on top of trying to solve people's problems, customer service is a big deal for us. And making sure our end users can actually get access to our good quality lubricants is paramount. And we've already seen a massive change in production and capability.
You know, it's interesting to see you manufacture your own grease, but also this idea of energy prices in the U.S. As a CEO of an energy company, I got to ask you, I mean, with the volatility that we're seeing in prices, how do you navigate around that as a CEO?
You know, it's something that is a moving target that we're always working with. We don't refine our own oil. We actually buy the finished raw materials and then blend them together to actually make our products. And
oil itself still going up right now. And yeah, wow, oil just hit 70. Oil just hit 70. Goodness gracious, dude. It's up 3% on this news. We are not at war yet, but for those that are just joining, the Axios reporter came out and he says the White House is giving him indications that Iran is going to imminently launch ballistic missiles on Israel. And that is what is causing oil prices to go up in the broader market. To take a bit of it. Wow, S&P now 566. Now you're getting a little bit of a hit. Palantir at 36.50. That's down 2%. Apple's at 224. We are getting some volatility. Is the VIX coming down, or is the VIX? VIX is up 21% for me. Might be down a little bit, but it still is up. If you had options on the VIX today, congrats. Those options are printing. S&P recovering just a little from 566, but barely above 567. Robin at 2248. Robin got nuked, down 4%. SoFi 763, Nike 88, Meta 575. Meta still somehow green. Netflix 703, Apple 224. Qualcomm down 3.3, Rocket Lab down 5%. Rocket Lab still holding $9 though. I mean, that's not bad, dude. There's people buying it at $9, even with all the headlines coming out. Nvidia getting hit as well, down 3%. China is the only thing that's green. China is the only thing that is green. Iran released a video with a ballistic missile. Really? I would like to see that video if you have it. Let me see if I can find it. Oh boy, this is so annoying. This is so annoying. All the military stocks are up right now. I don't think this is the 1030 bear zone, dude. I think this is Iran. I think this is. You don't see all stocks fall in tandem. Like Tesla's down 5%, dude. Why is it? Like, tell me why Tesla's down 5%. Someone tell me why Tesla's down 5%. Profit taking, really? Like that's the reason why Tesla's down? No, dude. Like Tesla's not down 5% to be down 5%. Like that doesn't just happen. There's no headline on Tesla. There's nothing like that. It's particularly because of this headline. Now, this headline could be false and it could be kind of like propagated. But the point is the headline is having an impact. We won't know if it's propagated or not until Iran or Israel says something about it, which we're still waiting on. But absolutely, I do feel like this is a headline that is getting people to feel scared, or at least getting algorithms to feel scared as well. And that's what we're seeing right now. It's the port strikes. I don't think it's the port strikes either, dude. I feel like the port strikes, dude, in the pre-market stocks were green and the port strikes started happening at 12 a.m. Also, the market prices a lot of stuff in. Like we knew about the port strikes for the past week. The market did not wake up on October 1st and they were like, oh, these port strikes are happening. We need to like do something about it. Now, I think in a week, if the port strikes are not resolved, the market will be upset. But I think the market basically priced in a nothing burger with the port strikes because they didn't send equities down the day before the port strikes happened, aka September 30th, yesterday, because they probably felt it would be resolved. Now, maybe the market's wrong on that, but we'll find out if they're wrong or not. So far, it does feel like the port strikes will be okay. I think these red moves are more so based on the Iran headlines. At least that's what it feels like. Palantir not getting any love. I mean, it was getting some momentum in the beginning when defense stocks were green. Lockheed Martin, are they still green? Lockheed Martin is still green. Wow, 601. Look at that. Is that an all-time high for Lockheed Martin? Yeah, Lockheed Martin just hit an all-time high, 601, up 3% on the day. So Lockheed is getting some momentum. Raytheon is up 3% on the day. Raytheon is well, not all-time high, but kind of close. All-time high was 141 back in 2020. Now it's at 124. Palantir down about 2% here at 36.55 on the day. Well, Amit, we didn't just wake up today and find there was an unanticipated Iran problem. Yeah, but that's not the same as the port strike. The port strike we knew about. Like the port strike, everyone knew it. Not everyone was covering it, but the market knows everything, right? Especially when it happens well in advance. The port strike, everyone knew on October 1st. And when I mean everyone, I mean like, you know, the market. They knew, hey, there's this thing that's coming up that's going to affect supply chains, and it's starting October 1st. They knew that probably in the beginning of September. They definitely knew that yesterday. Why did markets hit an all-time high yesterday, a day before the port strikes happened? Like my point is they would have priced in a lot of pain if they felt the port strikes were going to create a lot of pain. They might be wrong, and the port strikes might actually create a lot of pain, and the market has to reprice. But at least for the time being, aka the pre-markets, the markets did not give a shit about the port strikes because they felt it would be resolved and any damage would be insignificant. The Iran stuff, this happened immediately. So now Axios is saying the Iranian attack is expected in the next few hours. Interesting. If that's true, then obviously that's not good, but we'll have to see if that actually does happen. Uptober is canceled. I don't know if Uptober is canceled. It's just Iran and these port workers are making it kind of hard to keep it going. Jolts was good. Jolts was 8 million jobs. Jolts was great. The problem is the market didn't care because of this stupid headline that's taken over the news. But also, I don't know if I believe that 8 million number, dude. Like, that's a big number. To go from 7.6 million to 8 million, again, you got to really believe that number. I don't know. I don't know if I fully believe that number. But, I mean, if it's just based on perception, that number is definitely good. It's just markets don't fully care about it right now. Oh boy. Where's the Qs right now? Where's the Qs? 479. Look at that. Qs down 2% as well. I want to buy Robinhood at 2250, but I also want to see if shit really hits the fan. Then it's going to really tank, and that's when I want to buy it. So I don't know. Is anyone buying the dip? Did anyone buy the dip already today? Did anyone buy some stocks? Yeah, Iran, it does seem like they waited till Jewish holidays to attack. Yeah, I mean, that's if they are actually attacking and they're doing it during Jewish holidays, that's probably the reason why they're doing it right now as well. If crap hits the fan, Hood can go to 19 easy, 100%, dude. Hood can absolutely go to 19 easily. If shit hits the fan, we are going down, folks. We are going down, which I don't mind. I mean, I have some money. I will buy some stocks, but you kind of just don't want to see all the momentum we had in September get eliminated because of this. But granted, it is what it is. We can't really do much about it. Someone said Diddy's buying oil. Oh my God, bro. Oh my God, bro. That's a good one. I haven't heard that one yet. Dude, I've been following this Diddy case because I'm just I went down a rabbit hole the other day and it is insane, bro. It is just the amount of parties he's hosted and the amount of videos that he must have from these parties. It was basically a Jeffrey Epstein 2.0 in terms of being able to blackmail people with and blackmail really important people with footage. And the baby oil is just insane, dude. 1,000 bottles of baby oil, that's absolutely ridiculous. And that story is probably we're going to get clarity over the next few months what's happening there, but a lot of different random stuff going on right now. What else? You go down many rabbit holes. Yeah, this is why I can't watch movies, dude. Because when I don't know if you guys remember 3 weeks ago, I started wondering how do people fund Social Security? And then for the next 3 hours, I am down a Social Security rabbit hole and I learn everything I could possibly learn about Social Security. And then I make that big Twitter post about it and I come on the Market Open. Guys, did some research and we had a 20-minute segment on Social Security. No one can say they don't know about random things in the world when you watch the stream. You guys find out a lot of shit, okay? Because I have all this random shit just stuck in my brain like an LLM just popping it out. But yeah, that's why I can't watch movies because I go down these rabbit holes. Okay, most of you guys are saying it's too early to buy the dip. I agree. Unless this Iran thing is fake, dude. If this Iran thing is if it's just not because if the market's only down because of this headline and this headline ends up being nonsense, what if what if it just, all right, S&P goes right back to 575, Robinhood is right back to 23 and we're back to business. I think that's what the market's trying to figure out right now. And I don't think the market fully knows. How is researching Social Security better than a movie? It depends on the movie, dude. A lot of movies can't keep my attention, but Social Security, dude, I was interested. I was what do you want me to say? I was really interested. How the hell do we fund Social Security? I was where does it come from? Wait, what do you mean you didn't know how Social Security is funded? I knew people have to pay taxes to fund Social Security, but I was hearing for the past couple of months, it's going to run out by 2033. It's going to run out. And so I wanted to know, how does it actually get deployed? Where do we get the money from? How does the money, circulate? What is the exact percentage of taxes that people take from the payroll, from the employer, employee, etc.? And I found out a lot of stuff. And the biggest fact I found out is that Bill Gates wanted to put the $500 billion that we had in the reserves into the S&P 500 in 1999-ish or 1994, I think. And it would have gone up a lot if we had done that. Now we have 2.9 trillion in reserves that's going to run out in the next 7 years, whereas we could have had close to 11 trillion in reserves if we actually invested the money. But we didn't. We put it into treasury bills. So we invested in our debt versus American innovation. And a lot of people are oh, well, in 2008 it would have crashed, in 1999 it would have crashed. Sure, but if you believe in America, we would have found a way to come back. And America obviously has found a way to come back from both of those recessions. And so still that money would have grown. Dude, during 1999, we should have bought the fucking dip. We should have taken the Social Security money and bought the dip. Same thing in 2008. Same thing during the pandemic. But we didn't do that. We bought treasury bonds. And, that's unfortunately leading to a crisis with Social Security. Why is Cheesecake Factory up 1.6%? Why are Cheesecake Factory? Why? Like, we're about to have a pseudo world war, and Cheesecake Factory is up 1.6%. Like, what is going on, bro? This is so weird. Bush also tried to do that in the 2000s as well. Yeah, he didn't get permission to do it. A lot of presidents have tried. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to. And now you might say, oh, well, now why don't we put the 2.9 trillion? Now it doesn't matter. A, because we need to fund the checks that we're giving for Social Security. B, it's not going to have the compound, the benefit of compounding time on its side. Like, now by 2033, it's running out no matter what. I mean, like, unless we put that 2.9 trillion into options that can 10x over the next 10 years, it doesn't matter. Now, granted, if I ran the Treasury, I would suggest some very nice $15, $20 Robinhood 2026 options that would probably do very well if we put $2.9 trillion into them. But I don't know if I would get approval by the Treasury to actually deploy capital in that way. But if I did, then maybe I could help save Social Security. All right, S&P at 568, QQQ at 480, Robinhood 2250, holding on to 2250. Dude, Robinhood's baiting me here because 2250 has been my price, and I'm ready to buy another 100 shares, but it's really baiting me on if I should pull the trigger at 2250. It is absolutely baiting me. You can't put it all in Palantir. Could you imagine if I was in charge of the Treasury and I put the 2.9 trillion in Palantir or in Hood options, and like Vlad or Karp found out? Like, imagine the amount of pressure they would feel knowing like that their company is responsible for the United States Social Security Fund. That would be kind of wild, bro. That would be kind of wild. I would be a little scared, dude. I would be a little scared. Apple may need to turn to China after the Indian Tata plant has gone on fire. There is extensive damage from a fire at Tata Group's Apple iPhone component plant in southern India, which could hamper production ahead of a festive seasonal sales surge, forcing the U.S. firm suppliers to arrange critical parts from China or elsewhere. I don't think that's why Apple's down on the day, but that is a reason why Apple probably just has to continue focusing in China. This is why it's hard to go out of China. It's hard to trust a lot of other countries. When you have a supply chain that's set up in one place, it's hard to leave that one place. The money manager would deploy against you 100%. 100% they would ploy against me. Tata is the name of a group in India, guys, for those that don't know Tata. It's not what you guys think Tata is, which I know you guys think. It's an Indian IT company that it's like one of the top 5 companies in India. They do 150 billion in revenue. It's from 1868, 1 million employees. Like, it's a very, very, very big company in India. Dude, they have like you can get like water bottles are made by Tata. Like soap is made by Tata. Like, they just put the Tata brand on everything, literally everything. Amit used to work there. Oh, that's so funny. That's so that's so funny. But there's a lot of Tata has a lot of jobs. I mean, Tata Motors, and Motors. Where's Hood? Is it gonna make me buy 100 shares right now? Is it actually gonna make me buy 100 shares? Where the hell is it, dude? The resistance at 22 is good. 22.45. It's down 4%, dude. I mean, down 4% kind of feels like you buy the dip regardless, just off the off chance that this Iran thing is not as real. I don't know, but it's going lower, so maybe that's the thing, dude. You get greedy. We get greedy in the markets when stuff like this happens. All right, we got a White House statement, I think, officially on this Iran stuff. Let's see.
985, just crossed 70 moments ago. We're checking that out. We're also seeing the flight to quality, the bid for treasuries, which is keeping yields a little bit lower.
So the White House statement is on the port strike. Sorry, it's not on the oil stuff, but let's get the statement on the port strikes.
The ILA has told us the number when it comes to a wage increase they are seeking. That number is 61.5%. The president of the ILA speaking exclusively to CNBC earlier today about the negotiations. And I just want to confirm with you, around 61% is what you're looking for.
I didn't stutter. I said around 61.5.
Around 61.5.
All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deggy. You have a good day.
You do. You have a great day.
So again, that was the ILA president saying 61.5% is the number they're seeking. USMX, that's the port operators, they refused to comment on that number. And they said to refer to their statement from yesterday that the two exchange counteroffers, USMX issuing that statement before the deadline saying the two traded counteroffers, then they would offer wage increases of nearly 50% and also add to employer contributions when it came to healthcare and retirement, and also maintain current language when it came to automation and semi-automation, a very contentious issue when it comes to this negotiation. We also spoke to the White House. They didn't want to comment on the wage demands from the ILA, but they did note that the real wages for the East and Gulf Coast port workers have actually declined over the last 6 years. They also said they wanted to refer to their earlier statement from today, saying in part, President Biden and Vice President Harris are closely monitoring the strike at East Coast and Gulf Coast ports. The president has directed his team to convey his message directly to both sides that they need to be at the table and negotiating in good faith, fairly and quickly. The White House also maintaining it would not use the Taft-Hartley Act to keep ports open and force negotiations. However, I've been speaking to many industry groups and their leaders. They want the Biden administration to take further action. Many of them saying across a number of industries, I'm talking spirits, auto parts, agricultural apparel, that a strike is going to be devastating for not only consumers, but for their businesses.
So we're talking about $200 million a product a day that's going to get stopped at the ports. And that's, if that stays for a long period of time, it's going to be weeks before those goods can be cleared. In addition to shortages, you could see costs start to go up. That's tough medicine at a time when we're trying to reduce prices.
And that was the president of the American Apparel and Footwear Association, representing, sneakers, backpacks, et cetera. The overall daily impact of the strike is estimated to be as much as $4 billion per day, according to some estimates. Other estimates out there have it about $500 million a day. But either way, it's expected to create congestion at East and Gulf Coast ports. Basically, for every day of a strike, the estimates are it'll create about 1 week of congestion that has to be unwound. Back over to you.
Okay, Frank. And we did see some sell-off in some of these retail names yesterday. Bank of America attributing it to the strike. Abercrombie down 3%. Five Below down 4.6%. Ulta was another name they watched. Frank Holland, keep us posted. Let's get the street's take on the potential impact. Our next guest believes daily financial losses could be around $2 billion a day for the broader economy. Moody's Senior Director of Supply Chain Strategy, John Denisian, joins us now. John, how do you get to $2 billion? Because I highlighted some of the estimates that are all over the map, from the Conference Board to Oxford Economics to JP Morgan. What are you looking at?
Sure. Thanks for having me this morning. So the estimates are changing. When we went to sleep last night before the strike actually occurred, we were hearing estimates around $2 billion, and that was based on historical port closures from West Coast and from much less recent East Coast strikes. As we woke up this morning, estimates are getting more dismal, getting into that $4 to $5 billion euro per day or per week. And actually, now we're looking at maybe up to $80 million per month if the strike is prolonged into longer than a week or two, which is typically the extent of the strike that happens. So estimates are changing as we speak.
And what are the products most affected? I mentioned some of the retailers with apparel. Sure. But what else is shipped to and from these ports?
Yeah, the ports on the East Coast and the West Coast typically handle 50% of the U.S. volume in containers. So when you think about that, there are specific industries based on destinations, such as agriculture, automotive, apparel, and retail specifically. But with such a broad balance of business coming into the East and the Gulf Coast ports, it really will hit every industry, from automotive to industrial to manufacturing. So it's going to be broad sweeping in regards to the industries that it does impact.
It's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. All right, so Robin had tested 22.39. Now it's at 22.45. Dude, if this Iran stuff is not real, Robin, it's spiking back up, which is why I want to buy. But if the Iran, I just don't think we have enough news on the Iran stuff. Even Palantir, I mean, look, the 2% dip is the most we've gotten in a while. But even Palantir recovering a little bit at 36.50 after falling to 36.43. Small recovery, but you do see a little bit of a reversal there. I think the whole market's on edge right now. Robin right back to 22.40. Robin, I mean, the market's trying to figure out, like, is this shit real or not? S&P right here, 567. And Tesla deliveries tomorrow. That's horrible, bro. Like deliveries would have been going into so many good news updates and catalysts for Tesla. And now, even if they crush deliveries, which a crush to me would be like 470, market wants 465. If they do 480, I think it's going to go crazy. I'm expecting around 455-ish, but 460 would be good. But like, even if it's a good number, if this thing continues for the next couple of days, it's just hard to report into a crappy macro. Tesla right here at 253 right now on the day. Little recovery from 248. So stocks kind of found a little bit of a room right around 1045. It's 1054, but still down. Iran's proxy just fired 4 missiles. Okay, let me see if I can actually confirm that. Iran proxy 4 missiles. I don't see that yet. I'm trying to find that news. If you have the headlines, can you please put the links in the chat as well so we can kind of see? And we'll see if that's happening. I mean, look, if they launch a missile, it's like legit, right? Like they're at least trying to do something. They did say in the next couple hours that it would come out, but I don't see anything's yet. Sam says, should I stock up on groceries today? Dude, I don't think the port strikes are going to affect groceries that excessively, or like toilet paper that people are talking about, unless there's no real negotiation. I think the guy we saw in that video, he's being a hardball because he really wants to get a middle ground, and so he's being really aggressive, but he's going to eventually capitulate. Like, there's no way he's going to let his workers be out of a job for the next couple of months. I don't think that's happening. I still don't see the missile news. Yeah, I don't see any proxy of that. Okay, I'm seeing some people say hundreds of missiles and drones launched directly from Iran at Israel just now. But we need like a real news source to say. Well, is CNN talking about this? Let's see. Do we have any news sources actually? By the way, there's a debate tonight. Should I stream the debate? Oh, we have some headlines from CNBC. Okay, so we actually have some coverage now. Here we go. We have some coverage. Here we go. Let's see. Oh boy. Here we go.
Carl, in just the last hour, Israel's military spokesman has gone up on national television with a stark message. He says that U.S. intelligence has informed Israel that Iran is preparing to launch an imminent missile attack.
Okay, so there you go. Before we continue, that means the headline is not fake. If the Israeli government is saying the White House warned them, then either the White House has horrible intelligence or it's all real. And it seems like, for now, that means it's real.
Attack against this country. Now, this comes less than 24 hours after Israeli forces crossed the Israel-Lebanon border, which is just the other side of that ridge behind me. Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed militant group that Israel is targeting on the other side of that border, of course, one of Tehran's key proxies. And it does appear now, according to U.S. intelligence, that Iran is preparing to respond to that Israeli attack against Hezbollah. Now, the Israeli military spokesman said a couple of important things, that while the U.S. has informed Israel of an imminent missile attack, at this point, Israel has not detected any launches yet from Iranian territory. He is saying that Israel's air defense systems are at peak readiness and that Israeli warplanes are already in the sky, ready to intercept anything incoming from Iran. We are also hearing from U.S. officials. They are giving a more specific warning. They are saying that Iran is preparing to launch ballistic missiles. Now, that matters because a ballistic missile fired from Iran can reach Israel in just 12 minutes. It is much, much faster than cruise missiles, much, much faster than drones, which can take several hours to reach this country. And of course, Carl, this has snapped Israelis back to that moment in April when, for the first time in their 40 years of enmity, Iran launched a direct attack against Israel. It fired a wave of some 300 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. It was in response to an Israeli strike at the Iranian embassy in Syria, which killed a number of senior Revolutionary Guard leaders. Now, that wave of missiles and drones was largely intercepted not just by the Israeli military, but also by American forces across the Middle East with help from European and even some Arab states. Now, the U.S. is saying, according to these officials, that the United States is once again standing ready to protect Israel. There are some 40,000 American troops deployed to the Middle East right now, including multiple aircraft carriers and squadrons. I don't know, Carl, if you can hear that low rumbling behind me, but that is the sound of outgoing Israeli artillery fire. They are targeting Hezbollah positions on the other side of that border. We have heard that artillery really ramp up in just the last 40 minutes or so. Now, these U.S. officials are warning that if Iran moves ahead with a direct strike against Israel, that there will be severe consequences for Iran. So, Carl, this is an extremely high-stakes moment in what has been a very long, very bloody 11 months in the Middle East, and we may now be standing on the precipice of all-out war. Guys.
Raf, is there any reason, we've been talking about this with some other guests this morning as well, to think that the efficiency of those missiles might be better than it was in April from the Iranians?
It's a really good question. The Iranians may have learned lessons from that attack back in April when they fired this enormous barrage. Some of those missiles did get through. They hit the runway, at least, of an Israeli air base in the south of this country, but it didn't cause the kind of widespread damage that many expected it might. That combination of American, European jets in the skies across the Middle East, plus Israel's old and vaunted air defense systems, took out the vast majority of those missiles. But we will see if Iran's Revolutionary Guard has learned lessons and if they potentially are able to find a way through those air defenses now in a way that they weren't back in April. Guys.
You referenced the artillery fire from Israel into southern Lebanon. What do we know about the incursions made by Israeli troops at this point, whether they've encountered any resistance or where things stand?
It's a really key question, Carl. An Israeli official says that the number of troops who crossed the border into southern Lebanon last night was in the low hundreds. Israel is saying these are limited, targeted raids. They are designed to push Hezbollah fighters back from the immediate border and to begin creating the conditions where it would be safe for Israeli civilians to return to their homes. There's an Israeli village called Metula, just a little bit north of us. It's one of the many, many ghost towns now across the Israel-Lebanon border. We spoke to an Israeli military spokesman just about 2 hours ago, and he said at the time of our interview, Israeli forces had not engaged in any firefights on the ground with Hezbollah fighters. We asked them, why is that? If Israel is targeting key assets of Hezbollah, why is Hezbollah not defending them? They say at this point, it appears that Hezbollah has made a decision not to engage in direct confrontations with Israeli forces who have air support behind them, who have superior weapons, superior training, and it looks like they are falling back to some second line of defense further into Lebanon. But the big question, of course, is whether these more limited Israeli raids just over the border are going to be enough to restore confidence here in northern Israel, or if this limited operation is going to turn into something much bigger.
What are the Israelis, Raf, being told now? Are they sheltering in bomb shelters?
So at this point, there are restrictions in certain parts of the country, including up here in the north. Those are restrictions on the number of people who can gather in one place. But the Israeli military spokesman says at this point, given that there are no detections of Iranian missiles in the air, they are not extending shelter-in-place warnings to Israelis all across the country. I can tell you the U.S. Embassy in Israel is instructing its employees to shelter in place at this time. That is a reflection of that warning coming from U.S. intelligence. Right now, you have a lot of very concerned people across this country. They are waiting around their televisions, around their smartphones to see what comes next, and they're waiting to see if more specific instructions come from the Israeli military. Guys.
Pretty much everyone's talking about it. Let me go to the live stream on CNBC, and we'll get some more coverage as we go through this.
Shots with the supreme leader, but what are the different? What's at stake here, and what are the different strategies that they're looking at?
Yeah, see, I think that's the key question. From October 7th last year to now, this is really about Iran and its proxies. And without Iran, these proxies don't have the power to do what they do, but Iran likes to hide behind them. To the best of our knowledge, this is what's unfolding inside of Iran. You have a newly elected president who I guess you could call a reformist. He's been talking about a new era in politics with the West because Iran's in terrible economic shape. It wants to reduce sanctions. And so it has to be in a less sort of aggressive manner to be able to pull that off. Then you have the Islamic Revolutionary Guards and hardliners, and they know they have to respond. And then you put that together with the Ayatollah Khamenei's relationship with Hassan Nasrallah. 30 years, he's probably not, no person in the world he was closer to than the person who's just been assassinated by the Israelis. So there's an emotional part of this as well. But if Iran hits Israeli civilian sites, the Israelis may feel empowered to hit what they want to hit in Iran, including nuclear sites. That has not been done before Israel, and then we're really in a whole new chapter.
Does Netanyahu have at this point what you would consider to be some centralized power? I mean, how much argument would you expect there to be regarding military strategy, given what's been happening in Gaza?
I think what we've seen over the last 30 days with Hezbollah is a depth and quality of intelligence that I don't think the Iranians knew the Israelis had on Hezbollah, and Hezbollah certainly didn't know they had. To be able to hit and pinpoint where Nasrallah was with 80 bombs and take him out in a 60-foot bunker, that is just remarkable. And this didn't start then. It started 30 days ago when they assassinated a right-hand man of Nasrallah. They've killed more Hezbollah soldiers in the last 3 weeks than they had in the previous 2 decades. So there's really a change here, and there does seem to be a good amount of planning and thinking around it. Clearly, Israel has restored its deterrence and restored the aura of its intelligence capabilities, which was lost October 7th last year in the Hamas attack.
Obviously, there are bigger things to worry about than the economy here when we're talking about a potential hit on Israel and potential retaliation. But crude oil, Fred, is up 3.7% now. It's coming off of year-to-date lows, and Brent crude oil is up 3.6%. Obviously, when the confrontation gets closer with Iran, that's when the market starts to pay attention. So how do you think about Iran as a major oil producer and what might happen here as far as any economic or oil ripple effects of this worsening situation?
Yeah, I think the short-term responses are, as you said, I was surprised yesterday to see actually the Lebanese market go up a little bit out of perhaps hope that you could see Lebanon and with state institutions coming back after years and years of Hezbollah really disrupting all of that. To me, the more interesting question over time is this a tipping point in the order of the Middle East? Because this can either be a tipping point to all-out escalation and then more of the cycles of violence that you've seen for years and years, or it could be a tipping point, which is what Israel would like, and to be honest, what a lot of the moderate Arab states would like, a tipping point that counters, disrupts, and contains Iran. Then you're on your way to a better Middle East economic and investment story, but that's a long way into the future.
Well, it does feel like the chessboard is being reset, though, Fred. Thank you for your analysis. We appreciate it, and stay close. Fred Kemp from the Atlantic Council.
Thank you.
Plenty to get to with our next guest, both here and overseas, the situation in the Middle East, China's economic stimulus.
Oh my goodness. CNN is finally talking about it. Fox is finally talking about it. It is mainstream news everywhere. News Nation's talking about it. MSNBC is talking about it. So now the media has officially grappled on to this story. Again, we're going to have to see like to what extent Iran tries to carry this out, but absolutely, this was not a joke headline, dude. This was not a fake headline. This was a very real headline. And this real headline is destroying Bitcoin right now. Tesla's at 251, Palantir's 36.33, Hood 22.42, still down about 4% on the day. Dell, nasty decline. Talk about getting out at a nice level. Michael Dell selling $1 billion worth of it yesterday at 122. Bitcoin just below 62 grand. That means all the Bitcoin stocks will fall with it. And you got Coinbase down 8%. Lovely. CleanSpark down 7%. Cypher down 8%. Robinhood down 4%. Bitcoin mining ETF down about 6%. Marathon down 8%. Hut 8 mining down 7%. Ethereum down 5%. By the way, the Ethereum ETFs, absolute failure. I mean, they have had negative inflows of 500 million. The Ethereum ETFs have just been a joke, quite frankly. So for everyone who wanted Ethereum to like become an ETF, like no one cares. Like literally people only care about the Bitcoin ETFs. Yesterday was a horrible day for Bitcoin. It was, I mean, not horrible, but it was down, like 2%. BlackRock still bought $72 million worth of Bitcoin yesterday. Today, they're probably selling some Bitcoin because you're going to have people sell out of the ETF today, most likely. But still, the ETH ETF just hasn't done that well. But Bitcoin tanking means everything tanks. Let's look at the Max 7. Max 7 is officially all red. Meta is slightly red, but it's not at an all-time high anymore. Google's down, Amazon's down, Nvidia down 4%, Tesla down 4%, Microsoft down 2.3%, Apple down about 3.6% on the day. I'm not buying the dip yet, dude. Like, based on how the media is reporting it, and again, it doesn't even matter exactly what's accurate. It matters how much the media is obsessed with it. If the media continues to take it further and further, then that means that's going to affect how people think of this. And they're not going to be in a buy the dip mood. They're not going to be in a, oh, this was just fake, it was not that big of a deal type of mood. We're going to buy the dip. They're going to be in a let me sell my stocks. Let me hold on to my cash. Let me wait a little bit. Definitely wait until the election. Now you've got two catalysts. People were already waiting until the election. Now you've got port strikes and this Iran thing where you're just giving people another reason to wait until after the election. Everything looks like a falling knife right now. Exactly. Everything looks like a falling knife. Amit, did you sell? No, I didn't sell anything, but I have cash and I want to buy. I really want to buy Hood. I'm not buying Palantir at I'm waiting for like 32, 31 for Palantir. So Palantir is not even a question. But Hood is the one that I want to get more of. And I don't trust 2240 yet because again, although it's a good technical level of support, if the S&P falls, Hood's going to fall with it. It's just that simple. If Bitcoin falls and they're 10%, Hood's falling with it as well. That's why it's hard to get super excited about that just right now. Warren Buffett's been selling. Thiel and Karp have been selling. I mean, these guys have indeed been selling. I don't think they knew this was going to happen, or maybe they did. Who knows? But oh boy. No Rocket Lab. No, I'm not buying Rocket Lab. Rocket Lab's up 50% this month. I'm not buying it there. If I was going to buy Rocket Lab, I would sell puts to get into it. I'm not buying it at $9, dude. Like I forget the market cap. It just buying it after a 50% move upwards, it just feels like a little aggressive. Feels like you're chasing it, Granted, maybe I miss it if it runs to 20, sure, but not buying Rocket Lab here. What is Pelosi doing? That's a great question. If only we knew. Oh, Meet Kevin must be loving this. Oh my God, Meet Kevin must be having a fucking party right now. This has got to be one of the best Mondays he's had in a long time. And the reason for why this is happening, this market sell-off, has nothing to do with any of his macro analysis. It's all to do with geopolitical stuff, but that doesn't matter. If you're a bear and you get something to happen that's bearish, that's all you need, That's all you need. Oh boy. Yep, Meet Kevin. We're going to get a video soon. I told you guys. Coupon code linked in the description. Price goes up in 2 hours. I told you guys. I'm smart. You got to listen to me. It's a Tuesday. Today's a Tuesday. When did Monday happen? Yesterday was Monday? Huh. Interesting. All right. Today. Why did I feel like today was Monday? All right. Today's Tuesday. Never mind. Today is indeed Tuesday. I'll never get why Bitcoin follows the market so much when a lot of people think of it as a hedge against market uncertainty. Why does it follow the SPY? This is the thing that the Bitcoin people won't tell you. Bitcoin is not a hedge against anything. It is the only hedge. It is only a hedge against money printing, but that is a long-term thesis. When shit hits the fan, like Iran getting ready to launch ballistic missiles, Bitcoin performs like tech stocks. Tech stocks are risk-on assets. Tech stocks fall when things get geopolitically tense. Bitcoin performs with it. So you need a very risk-on environment for Bitcoin to go higher, and you need a lot of liquidity, which means you need quantitative easing. And I think sometimes people get so obsessed with Bitcoin, they think it's like the end all be all. It's like, no, dude, this thing, it like the first thing people want to sell is their crypto when shit hits the fan. It's not the last thing. Unless you've got Bitcoin at like a, I don't know, 15,000 average, 10,000 average, whatever. Like unless you have a huge margin of safety, most people have an average that is probably in the 50s because most people end up chasing the price, and me, myself included. And so that's the first thing they sell. But Bitcoin has never performed as a counter hedge to the market. I mean, like that is the dumbest thing ever. And any Bitcoin person that tells you that, I don't think you can trust the person that tells you that Bitcoin performs opposite to the market. Because if you just look at it historically, it doesn't do that. It just doesn't do that. I mean, we had massive inflation in June of 2022. Bitcoin is supposed to be a hedge against inflation. Bitcoin was down at 10,000 or 15,000 or whatever when inflation was at 10%. Why? Because if you have inflation, you have rate hikes. Rate hikes decrease liquidity. That's not good for Bitcoin, even though it is the solution to the money printer, yada, yada, yada. Like, ironically, Bitcoin thrives when the money printer goes up, even though it's supposed to be the solution to the money printer. And when the money printer, starts to turn off, it ends up not being the solution, aka when we have quantitative tightening. Now, granted, it's still long-term bullish on Bitcoin, in my opinion, but it's not going to perform well when we have geopolitical issues. Okay, let's try to get some other headlines. Let's try to see if we can get some more commentary in what's going on. Let's see. Let me see. Let's see which sources are talking about it. Okay, we'll start with this and then we'll keep going. Fox is on ad break, so we'll start with CNN, then we'll go to MSNBC. We'll try to get all three of them and see how they're thinking about it. All right, here we go.
Significant leverage and the various levers that he has to get Israel to dial it back. And instead, what we're facing today is the possibility of real escalation and increased American involvement.
You do have to wonder if there wasn't an election in 5 weeks, potentially how different it would be, the U.S. response. And then I want to get to Jim Sciutto. What do you have to say to that?
I think, to Alex's point, Biden and his team have been practicing old school tactics, and we are facing a brave new world, one in which Netanyahu is no longer going to defer to Washington on a lot of these points. So we have got to get more creative. We've got to get, in some cases, more aggressive in how we are trying not just, to work around the edges, but really allowing the United States to play a more proactive, a more strategic role in this process, because I think what we saw last week in New York was that the Israelis are not going to heed even, agreements that they are behind, closed doors saying that they're agreeing to. We have to put more public pressure on them.
And yet, as you pointed out, Israel is banking on the fact that the U.S. will continue to support it. And it has been, right? As we saw today. I want to bring you in, Jim Sciutto. You have some thoughts on this.
Well, just as we raise the prospect of one side or the other exercising restraint or delivering a proportional response, we just have to be aware of the danger that one person's or one side's restraint is another side's escalation, right? I mean, in the last 24 hours, you have Israeli boots on the ground in southern Lebanon, something they haven't done in numbers in 18 years.
Let me go to MSNBC because I think they actually have someone from the IDF talking about what's going on.
Ballistic missile attack, as our reporters described it. These are missiles that can go from launch to impact in about 12 minutes from Iran into Israel. So they are faster and they have more firepower than maybe some of those missiles deployed in the last time we saw a direct attack from Iran into Israel back in April. How soon could this come? And are you all maneuvering differently now with this news?
So last April, it was indeed a similar scenario, indeed ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. And each of them have their own flight time from Iran to Israel. Indeed, 12 minutes is a short time, but long enough for our aerial defense systems both to identify and intercept. And that's how we were successful in April. And we are holding a very, very high level of readiness and preparedness to confront anything that could come our way. I think that it's not something new, but we do need to be vigilant. We need to be prepared, and I think most importantly is we need to be able to keep our civilians here in Israel safe and secure and aware of how quick things can change from one minute to another from a security perspective.
A key justification for the IDF incursion into Lebanon has been to make northern Israel safe for Israelis to return home, as you've described. Does the prospect of an Iranian attack complicate that goal in Lebanon?
I think we revealed today extensive footage of what we've revealed from the Lebanese side of the border, the staging grounds, the weapons caches, the plans themselves to infiltrate into Israel. So all of that considered, we have no choice but to make sure that Hezbollah do not reside and loom over us from the northern border. And that is why the government instructed the IDF to go on the offensive after a year almost of negotiations of trying to come to a negotiated agreement that would get Hezbollah out of this area. Unfortunately, it did not succeed, and that's why we're currently moving forward. So yes, of course, there is complications, and when we see Iran getting involved, it reminds me, I think, of the 8th of October last year, when Hezbollah decided to get involved. I think there's a lot to be lost, and I would say to Iran, look very cautiously and carefully of how we decapitated Hezbollah in the last week, taking out their senior commanders, their operational commanders, their strategic assets, on vast majority of those. Look at very closely of how we've dealt with Hamas. On the other hand, nobody has an interest to further escalate the situation in the region. We just want our people to be able to go back home and live in safety and security. That can be delivered. Hezbollah needs to retreat in accordance to those agreements of the United Nations Security Council resolution back to the Litani. We are currently operating in the border area in targeted, precise, and limited in location areas precisely to deliver that. So I'd say we would operate on one hand to defend our skies from any potential Iranian threat, but absolutely push forward to make sure that Hezbollah cannot launch direct attacks, cannot breach the border area, and perhaps try and conduct an infiltration or an invasion into Israel, because from the plans that we found, and also from what they broadcasted over the years, that is clearly what they were planning to do, to breach the border, storm into the border with their Radwan forces, which are their special forces, come into our communities, abduct, kill, massacre in the kibbutzim, the communities, the towns. And that, from our perspective, of course, is unacceptable. And also in the aftermath of October 7th and the Hamas attack in the south, it is a very, very sore spot. And Israel just can't tolerate even the concept that Hamas or Hezbollah or anybody on any of our borders will pose such a threat ever again.
So coming back to this potential threat from Iran and this development we're learning of this morning here in the U.S., I'm thinking about what we heard from Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, last week at the UN, where he made a direct statement toward Tehran saying, if you strike us, we will strike you. That is a quote. What is Israel prepared to do in response if Iran launches this ballistic missile strike?
Well, I'm not going to hypothesize about what we can do. Of course, if we want a glimpse into our capabilities, our operational capabilities, we flew our fighter jets all the way to Yemen, 1,200 miles away from Israel. Iran and Tehran are within our reach if needs be. And I think the Prime Minister's words were very clear. Iran should not mess with us. We have shown that we have the abilities, the capabilities, and that we have the resolve to defend the people of Israel.
So as this operation is underway in Lebanon, how long do you anticipate that operation will last? You called it limited, localized, and targeted.
I think that the priority is to make sure that the conditions so that Israelis can get home is reached. I think that is the primary goal. That is the cause, and that is what the government instructed us to do. We need to make sure that the situation is safe enough for them to come back. So I would say there's definitely, and what we've seen today, the amount and the extent of their infrastructure that they had built over the last 20 years to conduct those infiltrations, to conduct those direct rocket attacks, anti-tank guided missile attacks, drone attacks, these types of things, they need to be gone. And I think that what I can say, and I'm confident that the delivery of our security can be delivered. I think we need to be patient. It won't be done by dinner. I think there's an understanding that if a terrorist organization that has built under the nose and the watchful eye, perhaps being ignored by UNIFIL, the United Nations peacekeeping mission that is located in southern Lebanon for so many years, it's not going to be over quick. We need to make sure that this is no longer a threat.
The UN, in fact, called this and said any crossing into Lebanon would be a violation of Lebanese sovereignty. What do you say to that?
Well, since the 8th of October, Hezbollah has been launching daily rocket attacks, missile attacks, drone attacks. In the first month of the war, in October and November, there were 7 attempts to infiltrate our border, just like on October 7th. So I would say, with respect to the United Nations, we have been waiting for a diplomatic solution for a year now. That diplomatic solution has not been reached up until now. And so the government charged the IDF to restore safety and security to the north, to make sure that there are conditions that Israelis can go home. And I would basically and fundamentally say, you wouldn't like it if you had to be evacuated from your house for security reasons, from an imminent terrorist threat. You would not like it even more if it took a year to try and resolve. And you would, like any decent human being, demand from the government to restore safety and security for me, for my family, and for everyone. And so I would say, yes, there is operations that are ongoing. We've been conducting covert operations, as we revealed earlier today here in Israel, of the extent of what we found, of the staging grounds, of the plans, of the munitions, the weapons, a vast amount of tools of terror and death. That is all they wanted to do. And all of this would have made what happened on the 7th of October look pale. And so that's an unbearable reality, unfathomable in any aspect of human existence, and a reality that Israel just can't accept.
IDF spokesperson Peter Lerner, thank you for joining us. We appreciate your time.
Have a good day.
You too. We'll keep monitoring.
Look, it definitely feels real, folks. It definitely feels real. This is not a fake headline or anything like that. I mean, you got an IDF spokesman basically saying we're getting ready for this. Question's going to be, how strong does Iran try to make this attack? And then the other question after that is what the retaliation looks like from Israel, which is why I feel like buying the dip today is catching a falling knife. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe this thing boils out over the next couple of days and the market kind of doesn't care. But if they go back and forth, like a legit back and forth, I don't know how the dip is good to buy today. Unless like we get a real, like, we see Palantir at 34 or something like that, which I don't think it'll happen all at once. What do you guys think? You think buying the dip makes sense here? I don't know, man. This is a weird situation. Yeah, along with the port strikes, this is a weird situation. This is weird, dude. I don't know. I'm not buying oil. Definitely not buying oil stocks. I mean, look, if there's a prolonged conflict, that'll keep oil up. If this is a nothing burger, oil goes back down. So I don't know if oil going long is the play here. It's not a horrible play if you believe this will last longer. War headlines are always buy the dip, though. That is correct. War headlines are always buy the dip. Like, usually on the war headlines, you buy the dip and you just shut up, and usually it resolves itself. And I mean, I don't know. Is this launching World War III? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be World War III. But I also don't know if it makes a ton of sense to be excited to buy the dip here. I'm not buying, but if you feel the urge to DCA, buy a bit today, tomorrow, and go on. That's probably the right strategy. I think as long as the port's on strike, the market stays red. It's also very possible. Lockheed's up 4%. Just insane, dude. Defense stocks getting momentum. World War III will have more robots than AI. That's true. Until we build the robots, they're not going to go to World War III, dude. They're definitely going to wait until we like legit have the capabilities to have a real World War III. And then they're probably going to let that happen. Do we have any other updates? Is anyone else talking about it? Let's see. Let's see if we have any other updates. We'll go from there. Welcome to October, folks. Welcome to October. All right, so CNN's talking about the VP debate. CNBC's talking about the Jolter numbers. And then Fox is talking about, they're talking about the North Carolina incident that happened. So I guess this was a segment. This is not like breaking news coverage throughout the entire day. It's like I don't know, dude. You would expect them to have like 24/7 coverage on this if it's that big, but they're moving on to like other shit to talk about. Interesting. Where's the stock market? Where are stocks? Where's Bitcoin? Did Moon and Hughes just say is Robinhood a legit trading platform? Can someone ban this person? Can we can we get this person out of here, dude? What type of question is that? On my channel to ask that question? On my channel? By the way, guys, I know Moon and Hughes, so I'm just messing around, but they're upset. Dude, how do you ask that question on my channel, bro? Is Robinhood legit trading? Yeah, but I had a bunch of people yesterday that told me they transferred on the last day to the 1% match 180K, 500K, 200K. And so we'll see what the deposits look like for Robinhood. S&P's got some green candles. Bitcoin's got some green candles. Palantir's got some green candles. Are we moving on? Robinhood's got some green candles. Are we moving on? Dude, my answer is yes, it's a legit trading platform. Goodness gracious. It's absolutely a legit trading platform. It's better than most other platforms, in my opinion, bro. It's better than plenty of other platforms. So, yeah, I would agree. It is a good platform. Now, like if you want something really, really sophisticated, they don't have that yet. I think the event they're going to have in October is going to allow them to have like something really sophisticated. But for the person who just wants to sell some options, do some day trades and buy stocks, I think Robinhood's perfect. All right, so we're seeing a little bit of green right here. Market's reversing. You're getting people buying the dip, folks. Some people are buying this dip. Meta just went green. Nike just went green. SMCI is still down 1%. Where's NVIDIA? Is NVIDIA green? NVIDIA, I mean, there's a green candle, but it still is red for the day. I think tax lots are gonna be announced this year. They said tax lots are gonna be announced, so it'll probably happen later this year. Palantir not really a dip. Yeah, I mean, if 3610 was the dip on Palantir, then I can't do this. Is the most resilient stock ever. If 3610 was the dip. Oh my God, Robinhood's going up. What is happening? I mean, it's still a dip compared to 2340. It's still, I mean, compared to what, 2380. Still a dip. But is this a dip or not a dip? Oh my gosh, it's so confusing. And are these Iran headlines going to be talking? Like, the other thing is, how much is the media going to cover them? Because if the media keeps covering it, like, you know, people will have fear. But if it's not, then maybe not. How did the U.S. detect Iran was preparing for a major missile attack? There's 4 letters that come to mind. PLTR. That might have helped. I don't know. I guess we'll see. We still have the rest of October to deal with, so we'll see how that plays out. NBC is talking about it. Let me see. I want to see if I can get any other headlines talking about this thing, just to get some more clarity. CNN's talking about the hurricane. Okay, News Nation's talking about it. Let's get News Nation's perspective if they have anything here.
These major populations to be sheltered and to not have large gatherings or be outside participating in recreational activities or anything like that. It is definitely a moment here which people don't know what to expect and are waiting with anticipation. And I would say, Marnie, is that keep in mind is that we've been in this situation before. You go back to April and you saw large barrages of weaponry fired by Iran directly at Israel. There was a large effort being put in place by coalition forces, whether that be the United States, whether that be Saudi Arabia and other countries, in order to try and deflect and take down any of those attacks that came Israel's way. What happens this go around remains to be seen, although you have heard the messaging coming in very clearly from the White House and from the United States that they stand with Israel. They've been moving troops and more equipment into the region as well, as they vocally said, with the intention of defending Israel. But of course, all this news of possible activity from Iran coming down just within the last couple of hours. So what comes next? We don't know. And the whole country is sitting here waiting to find out what exactly is in store. Marnie.
We are looking at some smoke, and this is a live image toward Lebanon right now. Overnight, there has been an exchange of fire. What has Israel's defense looked like, and what has it sounded like even in the last hour as you are there in northern Israel?
You hear it rather consistently, Marty. You hear the rumblings of explosions in the distance here. Again, we're not too far away from the Lebanese border. And as we see the alerts come up on our phones of different areas that have come under fire here in northern Israel, you can hear the interceptions in the distance. Those are one-off attacks that we've really seen. We haven't really seen massive barrages or anything like that. But it does underscore the fact that people in northern Israel, since October 8th of last year, have been rather incessantly living on high alert. It is an everyday reality. You go to cities here along the Lebanese border that have been totally evacuated for the better part of a year, just because you have a matter of seconds. I mean, in many cases, local residents there will say you're lucky if you have 10 seconds in order to find shelter in some of those communities. So many have opted to not even live there anymore. That has been the ongoing situation that you've seen in the north for the better part of a year to this point.
We're
Marnie.
starting to get word as well, Robert, out of the White House. What else has the Secretary of State and the Biden administration said about these new developments and Iran's threat?
It's certainly something that is keeping U.S. officials and a lot of Israel's allies in the West on high alert right now, because obviously they're monitoring the situation as closely as possible. But there are a lot of question marks as to what exactly this could look like. And it is a wait and see kind of moment. I, again, point you back to what happened in April here. You were talking about hundreds of missiles and drones being put in the air in order to attack Israel that night. It was April of this year. Most of those attacks were thwarted by coalition partners that were operating in the region. But what kind of weaponry could possibly be used this time remains to be seen. Exactly what scale of an attack this could look like, it remains to be seen as well. So it is very much so a situation in which you have a lot of eyeballs around the world, all situated right here on the Middle East right now to see what the coming hours bring.
And
Marnie.
U.S. troops there, even more so in the last few weeks, have.
Market's going green, folks. Market's kind of going green. Maybe it's a head fake, or maybe it's legit green. You got Robinhood recovering here, 22.73, down still 3% of the day, still down from 23.50. But it is recovering from that 22.40 level. Palantir, 36.05 was your dip. 36.48, we're back. S&P 568, which is a nice little bump from 566, even if it's down from 575. Obviously, the defense stocks are green, but overall, we are seeing a reversal. It's not an aggressive reversal. Bitcoin did go from 61.9 to 62.5. Kind of the market saying unilaterally, we don't really care about this headline as much right now. They did care about it 10 minutes ago. And I guess we'll see in the rest of the day kind of where the market continues to go further. STT, thank you for becoming a channel member. Really, really appreciate it. Thank you for becoming a YouTube channel member. You get nothing exclusive for being a member other than supporting the channel. So I really appreciate that. For anyone who joins the channel, like there's no exclusive content. It's just me 24/7, but I appreciate the support if you join the channel. Yeah, dude, markets are really reversing here. They're really reversing. Look at Robinhood. Like, it's still down. It's not like it's not down from before, but it's up. It's up from the lows at 22.35 today. SMCI slightly down. Netflix recovering a little bit. Apple still getting hit, but Apple's a different headline. It's not really the Iran stuff. Tesla 252. Even Tesla was at 248 at one point. So Tesla getting a little bit more momentum as well. I don't know. We're seeing. Maybe this ends up being a dip you buy. I don't know. It does kind of feel like a little bit of a head fake, though. Doesn't it feel a little bit like a head fake? Like this is like I mean, this type of recovery this quickly. It's not a recovery yet, but you know what I mean. Like, basically, they said 1045 was the bottom. That's what all the stocks are saying right now. 1045 was the bottom. It's now 1140. So an hour later for them to inch higher. I don't know, dude. I mean, maybe not. All right. Well, I guess we'll see what happens. Why is Oklo up 6%? I actually don't know. This one was down a lot yesterday. It's up right now. Maybe they announced a new deal, but nuclear energy in general is getting more popular. There was a headline yesterday that was big for the nuclear. I think Michigan is rebuilding one of their nuclear energy plants. So anything good for nuclear, I think, would be good ultimately for Oklo. What else? It's an overreaction because of how high the fear and greed index. That's actually a good point. There's always something that happens when fear and greed. Look at that. Wow, look at that. We were at extreme greed. I guess this little dip we saw today of down basically 1% on the S&P, that took us to greed. I mean, usually extreme greed, there's something that creates a sell-off, and maybe it was the port strikes and the Iran headlines this morning, or maybe, just like macro, technical, whatever, but back to greed is better than extreme greed, and maybe that's a reason why we're seeing a little bit of a small recovery from the 1045 red candle that we had earlier today. Maybe that's the case. MZAC says, I only get my news from you and X, so as my goal achieved on Hood, I will be a member. I appreciate that, MZAC. Thank you for being here and following along. For those that didn't get the gold card on Robinhood, look, I think it's going to take them time. Again, they're underwriting. This is one of those macros where you have to be very careful with the underwriting process, so I think they're just taking their time. I think they've rolled out about 50,000 of the cards. I know people want more of the cards, but I think it's okay for them to be a little patient, just given, you don't want to underwrite in an aggressive way and then you have too many defaults and delinquencies and stuff. But I do believe that is coming. It will be rolled out more aggressively later this year, and definitely in 2025. Nvidia still 3%, Palantir 36.50, Robinhood almost a complete recovery. I mean, not a complete recovery, still down 2.69%, but from 2280 to 2235, now back to 2280, which is not bad. Meta right here at 575. It is at least proving that 2250 is decent support. I mean, that's if we learned anything today. So if we do get some more dips throughout the rest of the month, if we go below 2250, then, or below 22, realistically, that's like a real dip, but 2250 so far has held on to not be too bad. Carnival Cruise 1820, HIMS 1871, HIMS is still green. Palantir 36.53, again, still resilient. And S&P, trying to look at the green candles on the S&P. Looks like it's trying to make its way back to 570. Look at that. It might be trying to make its way back to 570, which is crazy. This is pretty crazy. Amid, you have info on October 16th. I know you slide into Vlad text. Okay, so I don't have Vlad's phone number. But no, I think October 16th, they're going to get a lot of new products, a lot of new features, and the street's going to get really excited because it's not easy to get the types of products that Robinhood's rolling out with futures and building out a premier trading app. So I think it's going to be exciting. I think it'll be good stuff, and I think that's going to get the street ready to see net new revenue lines. Also, we have earnings on Robinhood on October 30th. So I think they're doing it right before the election. And I think, and we hit all-time highs in September, so trading volume should go higher as well, which should be good for Robin. When is your trip? My trip's on Saturday, dude. We leave on Saturday to India, which is kind of crazy. So like literally on Saturday. It's a flight at like 11 p.m. But yeah, I'll be live for the market open on Monday, so I'll be here. I'll just be from India. But yeah, I hope things do calm down before then and nothing gets too crazy. All right. I think that's it for me, guys. I'll be back on the market close. We'll see how things play out until then. So far, we are getting a nice recovery here. Not a crazy recovery, but a decent one. Robinhood 2279, Tesla 253, Palantir 3653, S&P 500 at 569 on the day. So not horrible for the broader market. Word of the day. Let's do that. And then you guys can get some lunch and we'll be back at 3:45 p.m. We do have Nike earnings today. And so we'll see what happens. This word of the day seems kind of ridiculous. I will try to say it. Acidulous. That's what I'm going for. Acidulously. I've never heard of this word before, unless people have heard it. With careful and consistent effort, diligently. Acidulously. The team assiduously followed the project timeline to ensure they met the tight deadlines. The detective assiduously examined every clue, hoping to solve the mystery. All right. Well, I guess we've got to assiduously buy the dip if you're buying the dip. So carefully do it, or just YOLO and don't assiduously do anything and just buy the fucking dip. I mean, I don't know, dude. If you bought the dip at 10:45, you're doing well. We'll see kind of how it plays out, but so far it's been all right. All right, that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. I'll see you guys at 3:45 p.m. Bye, everyone. Have a good one.